And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
You are not content with the stories, so I see the lives come. Be my victim.
Through watching scenes of violence, through watching scenes of transgression, through watching scenes of horror. There's an enormous amount of sort of amateural excess.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Hey everyone! Welcome to episode 44 of Double Feature Horror Show. We're at 44 of these. This still catches me out every week. What's that about?
It's what or as the Germans would say, 44.
Are you trying to bait some German?
Ja.
Hey now, willkommen zum Sendung 44 zum Double Feature Horror Show. Wie geht es Ihnen?
Oh my god, that's the first time I've heard German. It doesn't sound perpetually angry.
Impossible. Impossible.
Who could be angry?
I think what Proper Horror Show was trying to say was, hey now, welcome to another Tuesday Slasher live stream with your girl Proper Horror Show, your boy that crime guy, your rock Harry, and a special guest, Charity Rivers.
Oh, nailed it.
If you're wearing headphones, I do apologise.
No, they're perfectly done. And as you've correctly highlighted, I might be having some internet issues. This could make it exciting. Let's see. It's gone. I think we're fine. Let me know, folks.
We're fine.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Yes. As you mentioned, we do have a returning guest. We have our Charity Rivers with us.
Hello. Resident Sydney Prescott Simp here.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, she's all right.
Oh, yeah. we'll see how it goes. We'll see. I'm excited. So the reason we asked you back, I'm getting distracted by the chat a bit, guys. You're lively and I like it. I shouldn't read the chat so much. But Charity, so we asked you back because one, we know you love a bit of Scream.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And two, you recommended a great little film for us by the name of Ready or Not. And I'm not sure we knew it at the time, but we'd watched it, we'd enjoyed it, and then I found out that the makers of that film were only going and making Scream 5. And it made me think, like, okay, we got to get Charity back on. you put us in touch with the somewhat unpronounceable, I'll give it a go, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. I've still not got used to that. I really shouldn't I?
That sounded right.
I'll say I'm so glad I didn't have to pronounce that.
Apologies to the directors. Apologies. You know, mangling names is something of a tradition on this podcast. And you got us in touch with them, got us watching their stuff, and so it made sense. Made sense to bring you back. Now, have you done a big rewatch of the Screams in advance of the new one coming out?
Yes, but probably do it again, like in the next couple of days, because I can never get tired of watching them, even though I've seen them all, I don't know how many times. But it's just the hype, really. And I was very cautious. I was really like, at first, like, I think I told you, I was like, I'm really nervous about this. I don't know how good it's gonna be. But then I'm like, I've fully gone down the that's it. Like, I'm really, really excited.
I take that as a fantastic sign. You know, the fact that we get nervous is like, Scream is a franchise that I actually still care about. I'm invested in this, you know?
Yeah.
And I found something on the rewatch. These were good rewatches. You know, even the ones that I'm not super hyped about, I found myself warming to them a bit more. That might be, you know, it may come to be controversial for this one. But for Scream 4, I wasn't the biggest fan the first time round. But on this rewatch, warmed to it a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that.
I do love. I recognise this film's got its issues. I mean, I am very biased, of course. I'm very, very biased, and I will admit that. Be the first one to admit that. But I don't know what it is, because like I know that technically it's not the best sequel of this, but I just love it so much.
Well, I welcome that. Like I don't want this to be like a podcast where we just like rip into horror. I like a bit of love for horror coming through. What? We're pro horror.
That's all I'm here for.
You're the salt to balance out all the sugar, Harriet.
Exactly.
That's your role. But I've been interested that there are a whole bunch of people who love Scream 4, and I was just quite interested. Yeah, I want to hear from people who love it. What a like to hear what they really liked about this, because I found some stuff that I'd kind of glossed over on the first watch. That on the second one I was like, yeah, actually appreciating that a fair bit. Mostly Kirby and Judy Hicks. I got the Judy Hicks love this time.
Yeah, she's it. Yeah.
I don't know what it was the first time I watched it, but I just thought, oh, okay, she's kind of meh, but she stood out to me a bit more.
She was trying to be a home wrecker. That's why we didn't like Judy Hicks.
She has
with those lemon slices or whatever they were.
That's the best line in the film. It's not It's not cheating if you eat my lemon square.
I beg your pardon, young lady.
Absolute filth.
I want at least one lemon square reference in the new Scream.
It's got to happen, hasn't it?
I want at least one.
It's got to be done, innit?
And now we know that she was, why she was making the lemon squares, how she know how to do them, because she got a son in the new one, so it's probably... I know that obviously it wasn't referenced in Scream 4, but it's like, yeah, she bakes because she's got a kid. So I actually think it's quite convenient for them to they've almost set up the story building for her without knowing it, kind of. Because it makes more sense that she's got a son in this one, because she knew how to like cook and things and make things like that in Scream 4.
Yeah.
Unintended, but it ties them.
I will take it. I mean, that can be one of the predictions, which we'll get into. But before we do the predictions, I should probably do all the good old YouTube stuff, the stuff I have to warm up for each week. What are the specific kills this time? It's all stabs, isn't it? Gosh darn it.
One of them gets crushed by a garage. You crush that subscribe button with a garage door, and then when you realise it doesn't kill him, stab it again.
That's right. When you go to double feature Horror Show, our wonderful streams, I want you to go for the dislike button, but then it's a fake out, and actually you press like, and then it's another fake out, but then you subscribe.
Throw that like button off the roof onto a truck.
Threaten to put that subscribe button into the morgue and then throw it on a news van.
Oh, absolutely. Come up behind the likes and subscribes and just batter them with a bedpan.
Stab that favourite button through the head and watch it as it falls to the ground saying, fuck Bruce Willis.
Family scream!
So we're past the 30-second mark now.
Okay.
Post 30 seconds is like post watershed in TV language, so...
Oh,
is that true?
Right. Well, I think so.
Yeah, post 30 seconds, you tend to get away with it. Unless you're saying it every, 2 seconds.
Oh, well, it's sweet then. In that case, offer your married colleagues this podcast the way you would a lemon square. Tempt them with this podcast. We're done. All right.
It ain't cheating.
Gosh. Yeah. Seriously, it helps. It helps. The channel is growing. That is super welcome. But the best thing you can do to help it grow, seeing as we deal with somewhat unusual subject matter here, is spread the good word, like the videos, share it around anyone you think might be interested. It's all really appreciated, especially as a sort of the way we do these videos, are sort of going into a bit more depth with them. It's not super algorithm friendly, let's be honest, and the more the merrier on a live stream. And BK, oh dear. This is an entirely apolitical stream. I have no idea what you're referring to. But I did notice that someone picked up one of the Easter eggs that was hidden in the intro, so that was very welcome. I also had I don't know if I mentioned this already, but people have found 3 of the 4 Easter eggs hidden in the Christmas special, which was quite lovely. I'm still waiting on one of them to be discovered, which is a bit of a delight.
Should they really be called Easter eggs at Christmas time, especially if it's Christmas themed?
Oh, there's a good question. Stocking chillers, maybe. I don't know. It's a little hidden present that I put in there for people to enjoy, and I'm delighted that most of them have been found, but not all of them. Not all of them, guys.
I shall deep dive again.
Well, I'll start giving out clues in a bit. But anyway, I won't delay any further, though, because we should probably get into it. We thought we would start off for the topic with some predictions for the upcoming Scream 5, aka Scream, which just doesn't sound right to me. I think I'm going to keep calling it Scream 5. Seeing as that is out on Friday, we thought we'd, risk our reputations by having a stab or two at what we might see in there. Yeah, I know.
On 4.
What about stab 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then probably 8? That's gonna be the next one in Scream 5.
Could be. Right. So we've watched the trailers. We have avoided full spoilers. I'm limiting myself entirely to trailers and the cast list. So that's what I've gone off. And I've got a few ideas. So I can go. Is there someone else who would like to start off with their predictions?
I'd like to hold off for now, if that's all right. I just want.
I think you should be the finisher. You should definitely be the finisher.
Okay.
I might actually swap out so we have the something a little more relevant. Let's go with that one. That's nice. By the way, something we're pointing out. How good are the posters for this?
Yeah, I'm
loving the posters this time around. Yeah.
It was a new one.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. There are so many good ones. This has got that nice retro feel. Oof, I love it.
That's what I mean. It looks 90s.
Yeah.
Or possibly earlier.
Interesting that.
There's Wholesome Waifu is currently next in the next room with the hedgehog. I don't know if she's in chat or anything, but she's on hedgehog duty at the moment. So we'll go with you last. Harrian, would you like to make some predictions?
Man, I was the worst person to ask. I have not been invested enough to really think of any on the spot. I mean, one thing I did notice in the trailers is that when Sydney's on the call with Dewey, he's like, "Oh, do you have a gun?" And she says, "Oh, I'm Sydney. I always have a gun." But in Scream 4, she doesn't have a gun at any point. So I thought that was quite funny. So they might be retconning Scream 4.
That is a weird one because she's armed up in 3. She's got the little. She's got the little. I see, of course, some confusion. I can't play the trailers. If I play the trailers, we'll get a copyright strike, which takes ages to resolve it. It's a pain in the bum, alas. Yes, hedgehog. We have a rescue hedgehog at the moment. His name is Brompton. He's a bit of a sweetheart.
Oh, it's not Sonic, no.
No, I called him Brompton.
I'll tell you what, Crow Minion, I've got about 4 hedgehogs in my garden that just sort of mill about between our back gardens. I'll if I spot the next one I spot, I'll call Sonic, and I'll make sure I've got some blue paint as well. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So
And some red
Harry,
shoes.
I mean, I guess I can comment more on the kind of meta things about films because they always bring that in.
go for it.
And because it's been 10 years since the previous one and this one's released, they're probably basically going to call it a reboot, which they did a bit for Scream 4, but they call it Scream 4 rather than what they do with reboots nowadays. Just call it Ghostbusters, like that film that we all want to forget in 2016 was.
Absolutely.
And maybe the new Star Wars as well. But a common theme with all of them is that they put a lot less effort into the script. It feels if there are any previous characters, they'll either come in as a cameo or they'll be just completely ruined by the script writer. So I don't know if they'll try and poke fun at that as well. It doesn't really seem like that from the trailers. And I don't know if they'll do a Scream 2 and be like, a J.J. Abrams, everything's got to be bigger, you got to ramp it all up. But as you say, like with the flamethrower bits, that might be stab sequences rather than actual Scream sequences. So it's kind of hard to tell.
If that is confusing to people, that's
yes, there is a metal ghost face with a flamethrower.
Love it.
I could predict one thing. I reckon either Gale or Dewey will die in this one.
Okay, all right. I'll join you in there because you have gone in. You've got two of the ones that I have, and I know this. This already got a little bit controversial backstage. Harry and called me a C word, but it's fine. It's fine. We're over it.
You always deserve it, though.
That was two of my predictions. So I have gone in and I have predicted that Scream 4 is basically going to be memory hold. There will be as few references to it as possible. We know we're getting Judy Hicks returning, Deputy Hicks. She's pretty great, you can understand why, but I think generally it's going to have a couple of references to it, but otherwise it's not going to influence things. I think they're going to effectively trying to spring off 3 rather than spring off 4. So that's one of my predictions. And I also predicted that multiple of the original 3 get killed off. That this is effectively going to be a wiping the slate clean to try and start something anew. That is my guess. So those are 2 of my guesses. And I'll throw in a couple of other. Did you have another one, Harry?
No.
That's cool,
not really.
Though. It's cool. We're agreed. We've got a couple in common there. What do you guys reckon?
I do agree with the Dewey thing. I think that they're setting up everyone to believe that Dewey's going to die. I think they realise that's going to send a lot of people into a bit of a tizzy. Like, people are not going to be happy about that. So I think they've kind of been framing it in the trailers a little bit to kind of prepare people for that. I don't think they would. I don't think they'll kill Sydney. If they did, then I'd probably be one of the people in a tizzy. But I don't know about Gale, really. I don't know if they'll kill Gale or not.
I'm gonna throw it out there. They're gonna kill Dewey and Gale. I'm not happy about it, but they will do, and I will explain why when I get to my bit. But
right.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that they're gonna end basically.
Yeah, one more prediction I think I'll have is that I don't know which of the cast, but one of them's probably going to be related to Billy in some way.
I mean,
I could just see them doing that.
I mean, bear in mind, Dewey was meant to die in the first film, and it was a last-minute decision to keep him alive. The scene where they wheel him out and he holds his thumb up, that was literally like just thrown in just to give him a sequel.
I think they did that in 2 as well.
Yeah, I think the second one was more of a play on it. It was more of a play on that because that kind of it kind of became Dewey's trope by that point. How badly effed up is he going to get in these films? Yeah. So obviously,
he's been through the ringer, bless him.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll get to why I think that
Okay.
both the 2 of them won't survive when it gets to my bit. So shut up.
Okay, I'll make my 2 other predictions and then we can go on to you, Charity. That's cool. So I'm going to guess that Gail and Dewey are going to have divorced. Sort of awkward thing of Courtney Cox and David Arquette. You know, it was lovely that they met on Scream and they sort of, their relationship got close, but by the time that they had filmed, were making Scream 4, in real life they had separated. I just kind of get a feeling that they're going to have divorced the characters to kind of make it a bit easier on the actors.
Oh, I reckon they'll be divorced.
I got a feeling about that. And the final prediction I had is that the Stab series is going to be very minimized in this. That Stab is going to have become they'll reference it and it will have become a TV series, or it will have become a game. And it's going to be something that they're going to try and contrast it with this film a lot more. So possibly make it very corporate. Alternatively, they'll have rebooted Stab. So it's either going to be a big contrast or basically the same.
Yeah.
If that helps. But it's going to play a smaller role in the film. So those are my guesses around Stab.
I have kind of read a bit about there's a rumor. I don't know if this is a rumor or this was confirmed or not, but there have been a bit of chatter about that Stab is going to be rebooted in the timeline, and I think they're going to play on. I don't know if this was confirmed or not, but I did watch a couple of videos on this. I think that it's going to be a play on the soft reboot like we've seen with Halloween and things like that, and I think it's going to have commentary there by having Stab rebooted in universe.
I will love it if that's true.
that would make sense.
Okay, yeah, I'd love it. All right. So Charity, would you like to make a few predictions?
Yeah, I do think this film's going to focus on the soft reboot, and I think it's also going to focus on fandom, like toxic fandom and stuff like that. It's just as like a general theme. But one thing that I've been kind of thinking for a while is I kind of think they're gonna do a switch out. I think that they're trying to get people to think that Sam's gonna be the final girl, the main focus, the one who gets the torch passed onto her. But I actually think that it's gonna be Tara, because she's been very heavily featured in a lot of the materials, and there's also a lot of people believe that she's the opening attack, but she's going to survive and be in the film later on, because a lot of scenes are in the hospital, and there are frames from the trailer that you see somebody on a wheelchair and it looks like they've got the same hairstyle. I do think I do think they're going to kind of change that up on us. I think they're misdirecting us to think that it's Sam who's the final kill. I think it's going to be Tara.
Ooh. I'd like it.
By the end of the film.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know the bit you're referring to. I think I caught that in the final trailer today. And the fact that they were going back to the hospital, I was like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
God, I've got PTSD already.
Okay, good.
There is also a thing about with ties to the past. I don't know if anyone's aware of the ages. I do believe that Sam is around 25. So I believe if anyone's going to have the ties to the past, and when it talks about the secret that she doesn't want people to know, that Ghostface knows his secret, it could be tied to Billy and Stu. It could be that she's maybe a love child of one of them. Of course, she could be like, I mean, this might be a bit out there, but Judy Hicks was in class with Sydney. She could be related to her in some way.
Ooh. It's interesting you mentioned that, because Judy, you remember in Scream 4 when Judy Hicks turns around to Sydney and is like, oh, do you remember me? We used to sit next to each other in English class. Yeah. Well, originally in Scream 3, the actress who played Sydney in Scream 3 was originally meant to have that character arc. She was meant to be a former school friend of Sydney's. And she was supposed to be this, among all the other rewrites of the films, but she was meant to be one of the killers in Scream 3. And obviously they ditched that because they was like, oh mate, it's just getting a bit too convoluted now. And so what they did was they passed that little tidbit of her character and then put it on Judy Hicks in Scream 4, which was put there to give the diehard Scream fans a moment to go, "Ooh, hold on a minute, hold on." We know that the last person was meant to be a killer who sat next to her, and obviously that was just put there to throw people off.
I kind of like that. Okay. Oh, I forgot one thing. So we can see that we're getting a return to the original Stu Macker house from Scream. Do you think there's a pretty good chance that we go back to the original Casey Becker house, as in the original opening house as well?
Don't know.
We could do.
I mean, it's possible. I don't see why. I mean, unless there's obviously, unless they've moved out since and new people have moved in. I mean, it's possible.
I don't know I don't know if anyone's seen this or not, but in the part of the film where the parents come home to find Casey, he turns to the mother and says, drive down to the Mackenzies. People probably already know this, but one of the characters in this film is called Liv Mackenzie, so that's obviously going to be.
Oh, what a catch! What a catch!
And some people think that, I don't know if this is how confirmed this is, but some people believe that Liv is actually living in Stu's house.
Ooh. Interesting. Okay, that's a good catch on the surnames. I mean, the surname talk kind of leads us to. I suppose we could get on to yours, TCG, because the surnames are quite important to yours.
Strap up, guys. You're in for a bumpy ride.
Oh,
I'm excited.
Because do I have a theory for you?
All right, let me get this teed up, because you have outdone yourself.
Yeah, I've got a presentation and sheet.
You're warmed up? You ready to go?
I'm all good to go. Let's do this.
All right, baby. Let's do this. In the shoulder.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2022, Scream. I'm going to tell you why Stu Marker is actually Scream 22's killer. And I'm also going to have a stab at what the actual meta-analysis will be in this actual film. So, want to go to the next slide?
Heck yeah.
So, why Stu will return. So basically, I'm going to give you 3 reasons as to why I think the time now is right for Stu Marker to return. So the reasons, first of all, I don't believe that he actually died in the first film. The second reason was that he was always meant to return to the Scream franchise. And also, him returning now would tie into the latest film's meta-analysis. So we'll go over those points in more detail now.
Please.
I can see this happening. This is very somehow Palpatine returned.
Yes.
Energy,
No one's ever really gone.
So
one's ever really gone.
keep that. It's really interesting that you said that. Keep that thought. All right. We will get to that. So the first part, obviously, Stu never died in the first film. So next slide. So first, let's explain why he isn't actually dead. Okay. So one of the rules that Randy laid out of horror films is that the killer will always come back for one last scare. However, despite him having a TV dropped on his head and being electrocuted, Billy was the only one who actually got his comeback moment. Stu, on the other hand, didn't. So Stu actually hasn't had that second coming, as so to speak. So technically, this is in violation of the very rules set out by the actual film itself. Either it was an oversight or it was intentional. But I know that it was intentional, and I would like to submit the reason why.
Here goes.
Stu was always meant to return to the Scream franchise. Next slide. So when you take a look at this image on the right, what do you see?
Portia de Rossi's original nose.
You do, yes. But in the background, if you look at the background, there's a blonde geezer with a pair of sunglasses on. That man is Matthew Lillard, aka Stu Marker. He actually returned to Scream 2 as an extra in the background during the party scene where Sydney meets up with the 2 frat girls. Now, obviously, this isn't Stu, so this isn't really an argument to suggest that Stu was alive that Stu was around the college campuses at the time. But what it does demonstrate is that Kevin Williamson wasn't afraid to bring back dead characters, even if it was just for a laugh. Okay.
Ooh.
Next slide. As I said, this isn't where I'm making the argument. However, what I wanted to bring attention was that in early drafts of the third Scream movie, because just to sort of lay out, the Scream films were always meant to be a trilogy. So Kevin Williamson always sort of had 3 films in mind. And in early drafts of the third version, Stu was originally meant to return. Essentially, he would be in prison. He was alive, but he was in prison. But essentially, he had built up a cult following. And the murders, essentially he led an army, if you will, of ghost faces who would then carry out murders in various high schools. However, due to real world events, i.e. Shooty 1999, 2 teenagers, I won't say it because of Susan, essentially that idea got scrapped. And excuse me, Stu and Matthew Lillard has spoken openly about this in the years since, about how he was, meant to return and how he would always be open to return as Stu.
He was even paid for it.
He was even paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was still paid, even though that never ended up happening. But one thing that interested me about the words that Stu used in the first film, he actually said this to Sid in the first movie. You see, Sid, everybody dies but us, Sid. Everybody dies but us. Next slide.
That is pretty.
We're going to carry on and plan the sequel. Just want to stop there. You know that if this film does well, there will be another sequel. Blumhouse have essentially agreed to 2 films. So, just going to add to the theory there. So nice. in terms of what the meta-analysis of this film is, I believe it comes down to, next slide, fan service in modern day films.
How interesting.
So
you did say the posters would be relevant.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of what we know about the Scream movie, have you got those slides? I'm sure you have.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. So you got those. Yep. So what do we know about this film? So 1, it's set in Woodsboro. 2, the main characters from the previous movies are returning, and 3. Now, one of the things that I noticed when listening to the trailer was that they actually said the words, "The attacks were all on people related to the original killers." Very interesting wording, that. We also know that this movie isn't a remake, but it is a direct sequel, and this is where I sort of disagreed that the 2011 would get retconned and not necessarily forgotten about, but just it probably won't be referenced as much as, say, the first film. So if Stu is indeed the killer, it would make sense that he would carry out the killings in Woodsboro, not only for the historical links there, but he would also be familiar with his town. We also know that the main 3, obviously Sydney, Dewey and Gail, obviously we've got Hicks as well, but she's not the main 3, are returning. But they have established that there is a connection from the old characters that we already know, and a new as well as the new characters in this film. But I don't think that connection is perhaps the overarching theme of this film. And the reason why I think that is because they already did that in Scream 4. You had a new generation of young blood come in, and they already brought the old generation back, and they've already done that. So I think there's a different thing going on here. And I believe this old and new connection is to solidify the connection not to the protagonist, but actually the antagonist. And I say antagonist because I believe there's only one killer in this film. And what makes me think that is the way that the attacks is the method of which the attacks are being carried out. They're not being linked to the victims of the original Woodsboro murders, but the original killers.
I like it.
Each character.
As you say, it's going off. It's not repeating what they've done before, but it is having to do a fresh angle. Okay.
Yeah. Each character as well, each new character is going to have a link to the original film. Okay. So, I mean, Charity, you've already pointed out Liv McKenzie. for a start. That's and that was something that I didn't pick up on, but that's a really good that was one example. Another example as well is that 2 of the characters have the surname Meeks Martin. Now I believe that these are likely the children of Randy's sister, Martha Meeks. Obviously Randy Meeks, you know, big part of the first film. And typically when a sequel carries the name of its first installment, it's because there's some form of retcon or remake taking place. And I think we already mentioned Halloween as an example, but of course there was Friday the 13th back in 2009. They're not direct sequels, but they are sort of reboots or retcons of previous sequels. Halloween did that by removing Josh Hartnett as Laurie Strode's son and giving her a daughter instead, and they also removed the brother-sister connection between Michael and Laurie as well. But that's not the case here. This is a direct sequel, a genuine sequel to the previous 4 films. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I think it's going to be I think the meta-analysis though will be fan service to will be a critique on fan service on modern day horror films. I believe that although Stu will come back, I don't believe he is going to be the same character. Think Luke Skywalker, for example, in Return of the Jedi. I do believe that when Stu does come back, he is not going to be the hyperactive, insane teenager, but I do think he's going to be a bitter, broken man. Just simply out for revenge. Because essentially, I mean, he wasn't... He was always pitted as the other guy. When Roman essentially in Scream 3 revealed his motives for doing what he did, you know, he mentioned that he managed to recruit Billy and he advised Billy to get another guy. And Stu was also visibly surprised when Billy started exposition dumping on Sydney about the affair that his father had with Maureen and his motives as to why he killed Maureen. You know, he looked like, oh, hold on a minute. You know, he was just doing it because, you know, he was pressured into doing it. I mean, he says so himself. Why was he doing it? Peer pressure. He's sensitive. Well, I think that character, that demeanor will have been gone after 25 years. And again, I go back to what we said in like slide 8 and slide 9.
Is that this one? That one?
I think it was the one we're going to carry on the sequels. Everybody dies but us. And this is why I think Dewey and Gale are going to die. Because I think even though you could say that line was a throwaway line in the first film, when obviously it's Billy and Stu, again, we know that this film is a meta-analysis. We know that they know that fans really like to deep dive these films. I really think that bit of dialogue from Stu is going to carry some weight in this film. I believe that Sydney will be the sole survivor. I believe that Stu will survive. And I believe that the sequel, like Halloween Kills, will be a direct sequel maybe the next day, if not the same night at the end of Scream. And I also think the reason why the film is called Scream is because, again, it's a tie back to when Stu was in the film Scream and he never died, therefore his story continues.
I can only say bravo. There was a lot of effort put into that. There's been a lot of thought put into that. I could go with it.
If I'm wrong, I will be very disappointed.
Well, you know what? There's more stuff in favour of that, actually. So they, as you say, Scream 3, they were thinking of bringing him back, and they talked about there being like a brother of Stu. That was so that they were saying that he was dead, but he had a brother. That was an idea that they were definitely working on. And they also have a very rich history of basically, if you didn't see them die in the film, they can still be alive. And
exactly.
we've got 2 examples of this in Scream 4. So Judy Hicks, they actually filmed her dying, but they have cut that wasn't put into the original film. So now she's alive.
Yeah. Well, she, because because at the end she like sticks her thumb up, doesn't she, and then passes out at the end, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's Kirby as well. Although I gather the fate of Kirby is something that the idea was that if Scream 4 was mega successful, Kirby would be back. But it seems in the intervening time that as it wasn't a big hit, that they didn't carry on with it, and so Kirby was sadly left to her fate.
Oh, poor Kirby.
Which is sad because she was like one of my favorite. Well, she was my favorite of the new characters in that film.
Yeah.
I thought the slideshow was good, and it's really because like I really was totally against Stu coming back. I thought that it was like, but now I'm like getting convinced. And
it's going to happen. It has to happen at some point. If it doesn't happen in this film, it has to happen at some point. Because, like I say, they were never afraid to bring him back. And I think if they brought him back at Scream 3, the problem with Scream 3 is even though they had more time to work on it, they didn't have Kevin Williamson. He only gave him a 20 to 30 page outline, sort of outlier as to what his sort of vision of the project was. And there were a hell of a lot of rewrites, a hell of a lot of production issues, and it really shows. I mean, the film, I think by many people's sort of admission, they just made it up as they went along, and it really shows. And I think Scream 4, in that regard, had a much more solid story. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like, you know, if you give them sort of 10 years, then you might be able to put something good together. And although, mind you, saying that, they had less than a year, or just over a year. No, it was less than a year, actually. It came out 1 week. When they did Scream 2, that came out less than a year after the first one, and that was a pretty solid film, although there were a few issues with it. But
there are issues, but I'd say the big problem going forward is that, how can I say, Scream 2 had a very solid target, right? So I always look at Scream as the film that does the meta commentary on what's happening at the moment. And so you do Scream 2, you're obviously safe. You just talk about sequels. Job done. And it was when Scream 3 comes around, it can't just do sequels again. You know, it's on thinner ground there. You don't want to repeat yourself. They end up talking about the trilogies a little bit, but it doesn't go all that far. And so they're left with Scream 4 tackling the idea of the what we call the Platinum June waves. So the mid 2000s to 2010s, where it's just remake everything from the late 70s and 80s and sort of username appeal, but shift it up a little bit. And, you know, we'll get into how they talk about that. And my worry was that when they get to Scream 5, the question is, okay, what do you do? Because like Scream 3, you can't just do the sequels. That's been done. So Scream 5, what can you say about horror at the moment? And I think that's going to be the question.
I think it's going to be less about horror and more about fan service. Look at the poster you're looking at right now. Charity touched upon it earlier. They're doing a lot of fan service with the posters by using a lot of fan-made promotional material. That, for me, is a signifier. That's signalling to them that, you know, this film's going to be something that you, the fans, have said you want to see. So we're going to provide it. You might be disappointed, but that's the point, because that's what fan service typically does. Look at Star Wars, for example.
I like that you talked about fan service. Charity talked about toxic fandoms as an idea to come in. I think that's powerful.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time as well that Scream have talked to their audience directly through their films. No. Okay. Well, shall we move on to? We've got a fair number of predictions out there. I'll sort of summarize them, and then we'll see how we do next week when we meet again. But shall we move on to the topic of the night, Scream 4? Let's do this.
Go on.
All right. We're starting. Let's do it.
Yeah, all right. Well, I can talk about that.
Oh, where is it? There we go. How's that? All right, folks. I hope
I like that.
I hope you managed it. I hope you managed to catch Scream 4. It was on Netflix. It still is on Netflix. You have time, but you're now entering a very spoilery zone. So if you don't want to be spoiled for Scream 4, then, and indeed Stab 6 and Stab 7, look away now. We are going into it. So this is charity. I should probably say, like, because of the amount of detail we could cover, we haven't been doing a direct playthrough. We've been sort of covering through and touching on key points rather than doing the full-on plot analysis. But as with every other Scream, how can I say, like, this series is basically defined by its openings. Like, more than every horror franchise tends to have the bits where they see if I can make that a bit bigger for you. Lovely. Every horror franchise has the things it's known for. It's really common to have these intro kills to sort of throw something to the trucks nice and early on. But you with Scream especially, because of that first wonderful opening with Drew Barrymore, Scream really depends on its openings to work well, right? Is that fair?
Yeah. The opening to this is really quite weak, isn't it?
They put a lot of effort into it, and they know we know that. So let's. I think we have to start here, don't we? You said that's weak. TCG. What was your take on this opening?
It was a bit naff. It was a bit naff. It kind of the opening scenes of these films are quite iconic. You know, from the first one. You know, obviously the second at the cinema, the third with Cotton Weary. You know, and it kind of felt a little bit insulting. You know.
Interesting. Yeah. I
didn't really know when the film was going to start, because you sort of like baited and switched, and the fake out so early on. You're like, no, man, I'm not ready for that. Let me just
let's give the quick overview, folks. You should have seen this, but what effectively happens? You start off with a classic Scream opening in which the two characters on the top left are discussing watching a movie, and they're getting creepy footage coming in over. They just sort of discuss the relative merits of slasher horror versus torture porn. All very meta, all very up to date. That's fantastic. They specifically diss my boy Saw 4. I'll let them off, but you know, that hurt. That hurt. And then they're talking about sort of getting what did they say? Harassed over Facebook, and then
they're getting stalked on Facebook. Yeah,
stalked on Facebook. No, it should be a Twitter kill. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
they're clever commentary about updating things to keep up with the latest technology. Chat, can I just get a quick check? Is my audio okay? Am I
coming through fine?
Yeah,
through absolutely fine.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was too loud or something. Okay. So this is all fine, but then there's a swift killing, and then suddenly, bam, stab 6. And you find out, oh, we were watching a stab movie. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're finding, help me out, it's Claire Danes, isn't it? Claire Danes, and I can never remember her name.
It's two blonde chicks.
Kristen Bell, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that's her. So these are much more famous women. And I think when you see this, you kind of already know that it's a bit more artificial. Like, this one is telling you, you know, no, this isn't going to be a real opening, right?
Yeah, they kind of had a good idea at first, and then it's like, oh, we'll do another one, but we'll make the second one really bad. The Stab 7 opening, I was just like, at that point, I was kind of like, yeah, get on with it. And then, you get to finally the actual Scream 4 opening, and I'm still like, this is the introduction. I don't care about these characters. Hurry up, please.
There's a bit of a sneaky continuation here, which is quite interesting, which is they talk about Stab 5 being the one with the time travel.
Yes.
Which I gather was a plan for one of the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. So this is, once again, just like in the first Scream, Wes Craven having a little cheeky dig at the old franchise since he sold the rights on.
It's
Just
actually
a little cheeky poke there.
Maverick earlier on actually asked when Scream is going to, when is Scream going to space. So if Stab 5 was the one where they went to space, maybe, just maybe, check the film out at your local cinema on Friday.
Well, did it already go to the Hood, which is the much rarer one? Very few horror franchises have gone to the Hood. Only Leprechaun and Friday the 13th.
Candyman.
Oh,
season 3 of Scream. Season 3 of the TV show of Scream did that.
Oh gosh, I didn't watch season
That's
3.
not. It's not canon. It doesn't count.
No, it doesn't. But honest, don't do it to yourself. Don't.
Don't worry, I won't.
I did also wonder. Like, this is old. Okay, this is old. Remember, this is from 2011, and after this opening, we'll talk a bit about the production of this. But this is 2011, right? So Lost is not so distant a memory, and they are talking now about how 5 had the time travel. Lost season 5 was the time travel one. I think it's kind of a sneaky reference to Lost as well.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cheeky one. You know, it's a little nudge and a wink. And then, as you say, it doesn't waste your time too much in the middle bit. And then you're finding out that was just a Stab film. And continuing the thing from Scream 3, where by the point they're making Scream 3, there is already a Stab 3. Stab is overtaking Scream. They've now got to this point where you have 7 stabs when you've got Scream 4. It's kind of a good continuing joke there.
Yeah, they established that by the third one. After the third one, they just started making stuff up because Sydney threatened to sue them.
Yes. I thought it was quite funny. But the trouble, I mean, perhaps someone else would like to articulate the big trouble with this, the reason that this is a flawed opening. Harry, do you want to have a go? Or just give how you felt about this?
It just sucks. Like, what do you want? In detail, I just found it really boring personally, but I don't know if there's anything you're after particularly.
Well,
Can I?
Go on.
Well, actually, you go first.
You sure?
Go for it.
Go on. So I just think it comes down to the fact that several minutes are taken up by the first 2 fake out openings, so you get even less time with the 2 who are the actual opening kill. Whereas you get 10 minutes normally, around 10 minutes, whereas you get a far reduced time there, so the amount of stuff that they can do is less, and you kind of feel it less because you spend just less time with them.
I also think that with the first 2 especially, the characters in those opening scenes were quite complex. Maybe not actually. Maybe more the second one with Jada Pinkett Smith's character, because obviously you're meant to hate that character. She's meant to be an annoying douchebag basically, but actually it turns out that she's just a bit of a sensitive soul. And that's something that you pointed out, Horrorshow, when we covered that. Obviously the first one had the big name pull with Drew Barrymore, so people were already, I suppose, not emotionally invested, but invested in that character anyway. And it was such a massive shock when she got killed off at the opening scene. People genuinely weren't expecting that. The third one, obviously, you had Cotton Weary, an established character of the first 2 films, not a big player in the roles, but an important character. And then obviously, again, massive shock. Oh, he gets shot. He gets killed off. This one, fake outs aside, it was just a couple of blondes. There was no attachments, no connections to the previous films, nothing. So you're just
They were almost self-inserts for Wes Craven as well.
Yeah, exactly.
As weird as
they'd
that
have been
is to say.
far better off putting Lucy Hale from the first fake out and Kristen Bell, and have them be if they were going for the impact of like, oh, it's a famous person getting killed, you would expect them to be the main character, even though that's been done before. Like
oh, sorry, go on.
Go on.
Oh no, I was going to say unpopular opinion, but you know what would have made this opening scene good?
Oh, go for it.
If they killed Gail and Dewey.
Yes.
That for me would have been, because then that could have that whole film could have then tied around the connection, you know. But yeah, that for me, if they were going to kill them too, that's when you do it.
That would have been impactful, but that would have really upset so many people. I don't think they'd ever be brave enough to do that.
I think when we get to it, I do have a big problem that they once again did not kill any of the main three. But I do think Dewey and Gale need a better send-off than that. Maybe one of them. Just because the whole thing of featuring them at the start, featuring either of them at the start, you know that there's like a target on their back in a major way. If you're in the start of Scream, you're dying. So us seeing one of them, or both of them, and one of them gets it, that could be very powerful. I was also going to throw in here, like, on a quick point. I think in the first section, this is meant to be the stab character, so they are meant to be the less well written, right?
Yeah.
But the trouble is, I think they are better written than the ones in the real world opening. Like,
you mean the first two girls? You mean?
Yeah,
oh, definitely.
The first two girls are more realistic, better written characters than the ones right at the end.
Yeah.
You've got that very silly line where Ghostface is talking about, I'm talking to the blonde with the big tits, dumb blonde with the big tits, and she's like, I have a 4.0 grade average, and it's sort of.
No, I remember. That's a really weird line.
That is a stab line. Gosh darn it! Which film are you writing for?
Genuinely, because I watched Scary Movie today, I was like, wait, isn't that in Scary Movie? But no, it's in Scream 4.
You see, I wasn't wrong, mate, when I told you that film will infect the Scream movie. I'm not lying, man. I wasn't lying when I said that.
Yeah, it's just because I always saw Scream as a parody, so I'm like, well, what's the parody of like what I thought was a parody going to be like? And it's like, oh wow, it's like some was genuinely like airplane level writing, and then a lot of it's just stupid sex jokes that still make me giggle because I'm 4.
Back in 2000, mate. That was all funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if any of you have seen Have any of you seen the original opening for Scream 4 or any of the deleted scenes that they took out of it?
No, I haven't. No.
I've seen the deleted scenes that are the alternate takes of the deaths of Marnie and I can't remember the names. The girls at the end. But I don't remember the others. Do you want to go over that a bit?
So,
quickly?
as much as I love Scream 4, it is full of a lot of issues. And I think, there's a lot of studio interference and things, but I'll get into that a bit later. But I would recommend anyone to watch the original Scream 4, and then I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube. Someone actually took all of the deleted scenes and spliced them into the actual film and basically made like an alternate cut of the film. And they cut so many scenes out of the film that I think made it a lot better and tied up, quite a few things. But the original opening it's a little bit different. It starts with Jenny being killed. So in the alternate version of the opening kill, which they cut down, the part where Jenny goes upstairs and prank calls Marnie.
Just looking at it now.
She comes back down when Jenny comes back down the stairs. She gets a call from Ghostface, but it's actually Marnie who's doing the prank call. So there's an extra prank call in the scene, and what happens is they laugh and joke for a bit, and then they go back into the living room, and Ghostface is already in the house and stabs Jenny, and Marnie's looking at her thinking, you're taking the pee, like you're not like, I know that I know that this is a prank, but then it turns out like it's the actual killer, and then she's killed. And I actually thought that was a lot more effective and a lot more interesting than what we got.
So that would be more of a, how can I say? That's a more direct reminder of stab 6, stab 7, don't take it seriously, don't take it seriously. Oh, hey, we're still pranking each other, don't take it seriously. But then a slower twist to bring the seriousness.
Yeah.
Right?
I think they must have cut that out because
right.
she never got an actual genuine Ghostface call.
Yeah.
It was just pranks, and then Ghostface was already in the house. But I liked it a lot better than the original.
Well, yeah, we're going to have to look that out. I'll summarise the big problem of all of this, apart from the fact that it brings up a recurring theme that I've raised as an issue, which is that Scream always needs to make sure that it isn't Stab. If Stab is there as a counterpoint to the way Itchy and Scratchy are the counterpoint to The Simpsons, and Terrence and Philip are the sort of counterpoint to South Park, if you think we're terrible, this is what we could be. Like, that's the vibe that's meant to be. Scream, I think, really does struggle to differentiate itself from Stab after Scream 2. Like, Scream 2 is perfect in differentiating itself from Stab. This point, they've got a problem. And then they get to the wider issue with this is just that it has trained you not to care, right? You get to that third one, and it's told you twice, don't care about what happens here. And so, I come into the scene and it's like, I've listened to you, film. You've told me not to care. I am not going to care. Fair play. So when you go for the, big Scream 4 logo, it's sort of like, okay, but you've told me not to give a darn about what's happening, so I'm not going to. And that is the big problem with the opening for me.
Definitely.
Yeah, it doesn't help that these two are obviously just self-inserts for Wes Craven as well, where they're just like, oh, time travel.
You want to see some self-insert?
Go on.
Oh gosh, where is it? I've got it. I've got a cameo from the writer. Kevin Williamson did actually have a cameo in Scream 2, I think it was. He was an interviewer interviewing Cotton Weary. It's very quick. But there is another Kevin Williamson cameo in Scream 4 that's really easy to miss.
Did you know that Wes Craven actually cameoed in Scream 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, in Scream 1?
In the first Scream,
he's the janitor.
No, not just that, but he also donned the Ghostface outfit. So in the opening scene, when I think it's the scene where Drew Barrymore like smacks him over the face with the phone. That's Wes Craven.
That was when they were doing a whole load of reshoots, wasn't it? Because they hadn't settled on the mask.
Yeah.
Oh, nifty. Sorry, I picked this up because I thought it was really funny. I just okay. Obviously, this is Gail's computer screen, but I just really related. That's Kevin Williamson being like, right, I did Scream 3. I rounded it off. What the heck do I do now? What the heck?
I feel like this is more of a jibe at the people who wrote Scream 3. To be fair.
Hey, Sam, isn't it? Hey, Eskilman, how you doing? I know you were not as big a fan of Scream 4, even though you are the biggest fan of Scream 3, as far as I remember. We've just sort of covered the opening, and now we're moving on. So don't worry about being late. You're all good, man.
Although you did miss the most solid theory about Scream 5. I'm just going to say that. You
do have to catch go back after this and watch TCG's theory on. Did a presentation. Like I'm legit impressed.
Harry will like it because it's rock solid.
Nice.
Way hey.
I was really impressed as well because like I've always been, because I'm on one of those groups where people post the theories and stuff, and it's like every time someone brings up Stu being alive, I really hate it. But now I'm like, it's at the back of my mind now. I'm convinced because that was so good, and I'm like, it makes sense now.
It has to
I want
happen.
it now.
I
Now
want it to happen.
I'm sold. I'll be happy.
Literally.
I want it to happen so bad.
Yeah, I mean, we could. This is an interesting one in terms of why we have a Scream 4. It is interesting. I should probably point out that this does bring back Wes Craven. This does bring back Kevin Williamson, sorely missed from Scream 3's writing. But also, I do believe that Aaron Kruger, the writer of Scream 3, was brought back on to do some touch-up to this, but apparently only superficial. So a big return, but obviously a large break. 11 years since Scream 3 when they set down to make this. And one of the big problems is, what do you do? What do you do after the trilogy when you've resolved it? So I thought maybe one thing we should talk about is the return of Sidney, Gale, and Dewey and who they are in this movie. Because yeah.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. I mean, one of the differences of this film compared to the last two, shall we say, for a start, is Gale and Dewey's relationship. So unlike the second and third films, they're still together. The only difference being that Gale was given up her journalistic life for, well, essentially to be a based stay-at-home waifu.
Yeah,
more or
pretty
less.
wholesome.
But she wants to start writing fictional novels, and as you saw on screen, she hasn't got a clue what to write. And Dewey's back on the force. Seems to not have the gammy limp anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, he doesn't have a limp anymore, does he?
Yeah, he seems.
Yeah, there is something in the script about that. They do acknowledge that he's had years of physical therapy.
Yeah,
it was reduced in Scream 3 as well, so it's kind of a consistent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind that. This is let's throw a bit of praise towards Scream 4, because this was actually good. I am really happy that they did not reset Gale and Dewey. You know, after Scream 3.
To be fair, I was happy with that, because I think if they trod the same grounds again, it would have definitely felt repetitive and almost forced. Like, okay, so they split up again. Okay, I can understand they split up. Oh no, but now they're going to get back together again at the end of the film. Oh, okay, so probably by the fifth film they're going to be, oh, look at that, they're still apart. Oh god, what happened this time? What did Gale write about Dewey this time? Do you know what I mean? Oh
yeah.
They can't do that again. No. So this is kind of good that they follow through. Like Dewey has an obvious place in Woodsboro where he feels at home. That's pretty cool. Gale, though, is, as you would expect, a bit out of her depth, a bit unsure of herself, and finding herself at a crossroads. That's kind of nice. That's good.
Yeah.
They find a way to get a good tension between Gale and Dewey in this.
Yeah, it's a demonstration of good development between the two characters, as I say, rather than sort of retreading old grounds. There's an evolution of their characters. Okay, now they've got an established relationship. Gale's made these sacrifices. Dewey, is now working alongside a woman who definitely wants him to sample her lemon slices.
Best line in the film.
Oh yeah.
Best line in the film.
Obviously Gale feels a bit threatened by that, and there's a good foundation to build on, I think.
Yeah,
they were originally supposed to have, I believe they were originally supposed to have a child in this film, but that
were
got
they
cut apparently. I ended up kind of like finding out a lot about like the behind the scenes stuff for this film, just by virtue of watching like a lot of the channels talking about Scream 5, because to fill in content between the updates for the new film, people started just uploading trivia and stuff about the other Scream films.
Yeah,
and there's a lot actually about this that was changed.
We should also, that one thing I found out is that they were, even though they had a lot more lead time, at this point, Kevin Williamson is not running Dawson's Creek anymore, long may it rest.
Ugh.
But they were once again hit with the rewrite bug over and over.
Yeah.
They lost a couple of cast members who just ducked out because they got really annoyed with all the rewrites. I don't know if it's a Kevin Williamson thing, but the rewrites seem inescapable on this franchise. But yeah, so you have a sensible dynamic that I kind of like. I don't think you need them to have a baby. It'd be nice, but I think they excluded it for logistics reasons. You have Gail out of her element, and so what does she do? She goes back to what she knows. It's kind of sensible. She goes back to being a bit of a gutsy reporter. That works for me as a storyline. I'm quite happy with that.
It's closer to investigator, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
More of an investigator. She sees an opportunity for herself where she could, get a bit of fame again. She's obviously quite thrown off by Sydney being the big name now. And that's a bit more. Sorry, I did just have this screenshot here from my favorite line of the film, which is Judy Hicks saying, "It's not cheating if you eat my lemon squares."
I keep calling them slices, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I keep calling them slices. No, they are lemon squares. I keep calling them slices.
This is a family stream, Deputy Hicks. What are you doing? But the big one I had an issue with is Sydney. And I'm going to put this out there. This doesn't feel like Sydney to me.
Okay.
How do you mean?
Well, there was a big layer. This is the big thing that I've already seen it in chat, as Sam said. It doesn't feel like Scream. It mostly that's located in Sydney, and it's this new vision of her that I can't connect to the rest of the film. So in Scream 3, she comes back. She's got a very similar haircut to 2. She's wearing an outfit that looks very much like her Scream 2 outfit. It's the dark leather jacket and the green top. And she's still wearing her college letters. So there's a big sense of continuity.
So she's not wearing. Is she not wearing them there, or is it just tucked underneath?
I don't think she doesn't wear them at any point in the film, unfortunately.
Right.
So that's one thing. She's got a very different haircut. Now, this is trivial. I'm not saying she needs to be wearing her college boyfriend, her deceased college boyfriend's fraternity necklace. I'm not saying she needs to keep the same haircut and the same glorious early 2000s style. She shouldn't be popping out some Limp Biscuit as she comes along just to really connect us to that 2000s energy of Scream 3. But the problem is I can't connect this Sydney, who's an author not identifying as a victim, with the Sydney at the end of Scream 3 who had found herself secure, already not a victim, but invested in doing more humble work, not wanting the limelight.
I think
throwing off attention and working on the phone line. I see what you're saying. I think the difference. I would liken Sydney in this movie to like a real world victim, someone that I actually covered on my channel, Alison Botha. I don't know if you guys stumbled across. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys stumbled across that case. Yeah? She was the South African who, for guys in the chat, if you don't know, you can go and watch it on my channel, but I would pre-warn you, it's quite a quite a ride. But yeah, she was basically attacked, like, horrifically. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, attacked horrifically, left for dead. Somehow survived. Ended up managing to identify the two attackers and put them away. But rather than sort of hide away and sort of shy away from the experience that happened to her, she ended up becoming essentially like a public speaker. So she'd go all around South Africa openly discussing her experiences, writing books about it. There was a movie that came out, I think back in 2016 or might have been 2019,
which she was heavily involved in the production of, just telling that story. That to me is kind of what Sidney Prescott is in this movie. She's essentially accepted her scars. She's accepted the bad things that have happened to her, and now she's trying to tell that story to raise awareness and try and get a positive message out of it all. I don't have a problem with Sidney's character so much in this film because I can see the real world version, if that makes sense.
It felt quite. I mean, to me, I really quite liked it. It felt quite natural to me, just because at the end, like at the end of Scream 3, I think they were kind of setting up the thing of like, you know, she leaves the door open when it blows open. She seems to be, she's
at peace,
got a new mindset. She's kind of disregarded the victim role, and I think what's probably happened in the 10 years since is that she's come to terms with it, and she's thought, maybe if I write this book, I can help other people who've gone through terrible things. And I think that's her genuine passion. I think the sales and the fame is very, very secondary, and especially in, probably getting ahead a bit, but in the hospital scene when Rebecca, the publicist, says to her, oh my God, if you go and do these interviews, you can get so many more, like, you can get so much more money and more readers. And she was like, did you not read the book? Did you not get the point of what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
So to me, it kind of felt like natural, just kind of, she's come, you know, to peace with it and that.
Interesting. I mean, I think it could blend in an interesting way with one of the themes the film has. So if we connect it to what Jill says at the end, she talks about basically if you want fame, all you have to do is have effed up stuff happening to you. Now that is actually really prescient, and one of the things I love about Scream 4. This is something it did really well. But I think they could have blended Sidney's writing of the autobiography into that. And it could have been really simple, just a couple of lines of dialogue about her just being a bit more hesitant to do it, and be like, have some way of saying she tried to do something else, but basically the only way she could get money was by selling the story, because people want to hear the story of the victim, not the story of the survivor. Or she's doing it so the money can go to the women's refuge helpline that she works for. Something like that would connect it quite nicely to something right at the end. And I
think that would connect it quite well to Scream 3. But then I think, I mean, I think that would have been really good, but I think maybe I'm just kind of satisfied with how it's kind of, I can see how they've kind of tried to explain it in terms of she's done it just because she wants to help other people. So I suppose I'm fine with both, but I do think that I would have really appreciated, as you said, then the link it more strenuously.
That's fine. Fez, we are in the spoiler zone. We said it's full spoilers. It's spoilers everywhere. We did it. We said. Yeah. Fez, please.
Yeah.
Carrie, can I get your take on it?
This is my favourite Sidney out of all the films. And this just makes sense from what she was doing in Scream 3, because she's helping people anonymously, but then at the end of the film, she, you know, you get the massive gate opening, leave the door opening, so not massive, but clearly she's over being anonymous and in hiding. So what's her next step? Well, she would put her face to these things and tell people how to, you know, deal with their lives better, which is what she was doing in 3. So I don't have a problem with this at all. It's the next little step that she'd obviously take. So,
okay.
I mean, you know, a nice detail obviously would have been the Scream 2 boyfriend's necklace, but it's.
I never keep
gone.
Sorry, I feel like I'm talking loads. It's just because I'm really passionate about this film. But
no, you're grand. You're grand. Go on.
It's just because at the end of the I don't know. I keep coming back to the deleted scenes, but there's a deleted scene at the very end where it's after the aftermath. It's after the whole thing's happened, and she's just lying there in the hospital bed, and she's just doing Gail come in to see. And I think it's because they could have gone down the road of, oh God, she's traumatized again. But at the end of the film, she just sits there, just content and like. Just sat there, like she's just I don't know how to describe it really. She's just not. She's just in a similar place to the start of the film, really. But she's very. It's more. She's gone through all this, but she's still content that it's all over and that she's still. You know, she's still like firm in what she's believing in.
It sounds like there's so much in these deleted scenes, because I did find that kind of similar to the first Scream, the middle of the story, the sort of second act, is quite racy. Like it could have been filled out a lot more, actually.
Yeah,
I found there's a lot in the first act to set up, and there's lots of thought into what happens in the finale, and then the middle they do try and just sort of move the pieces very, very quickly. And I felt there was a fair amount that I missed out on, including, of course, the Wes Craven cameo in this one, which was in a deleted scene, unfortunately.
Do you want me to post? I think I've found the fan. I think it's a fan-made version of the film. Do you want me to post that in the comment section?
Post it in the private chat, and then I can post it in the comments. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, proper horror show doesn't trust me and Harry to be mods.
Wait, I think I can do it. All right, we'll comment mod me, and I think, can I do it in here? Oh gosh.
You should be able to do it. You should be able to do it on the actual stream itself. You right click our name, you should be able to make user mod.
Really? Hang on.
Should be as simple as that. Don't mod
Sorry,
me.
I'm doing doing boring stream admin. Sorry guys, we'll move on. Okay, let me throw another thing. So obviously diverse opinions on here. Diversity is our strength. That's all fine. It's interesting. Like, I had this take on Sydney, and it's interesting. You haven't even heard my gay reading of Sydney in this.
Oh, God damn it! Every time.
Right. I mean, there is some gay stuff to discuss in this, but we'll get to that.
There wasn't Scary Movie. Oh, there was a gay... Yeah.
What? No, it wasn't. Ray was straight. He told you.
No, but the other guy sucked his... after he found out he was gay.
Yeah.
That was a bro job. It's fine.
We're not quite there yet, but I do want to bring up... Scary Movie predicted one of the Scream 4's killers in advance. Just saying. 11 years in the past. Abstinence made him a killer.
It's true. It's true. Okay, right. Let's just get one more thing down here. The other reason I felt like, and I'm probably going to be on my own here. The other reason that I kind of found like this hashtag wasn't my Sydney is like the random family that we've never heard of before. And it's just like, oh, Aunt Sydney's in town. Like,
Just going to say, it's not the first time they've done it, though, is it? Let's be honest. In the last film, they had Randy Meeks' sister.
I know. I just, again...
It's a bit convenient, isn't it?
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's the parachuted in family that gave me a bit of a difficulty. I realise it's not inconceivable she has family, but it's just the whole Aunt Sid... comes in and it's like, oh, here are some people who are like really important to me that I never mentioned. It's like, oh, come on. We do have the best chat of the night so far. Congratulations, Chromium. That is beautiful.
I mean, they say Aunt Sydney. It isn't what, I can't remember her name. Whatever Jill's mum's called, isn't it? Sydney's aunt. That's who it is.
Sydney's Jill's cousin.
Yeah, it's there. Jill's Sydney's cousin. From what I can tell.
I got weirdly confused by this. I don't know if I'm just being a weirdo, but there's something that felt kind of weird about Sydney's relationship, where she's got the aunt who is older than her and the cousin who's very significantly younger, and it just felt a bit kind of like they were putting her in more of an older sister role. It was a weird one. It just felt a little odd, like just a bit unusual. Like it didn't sit quite right.
Yeah.
I know I'm possibly being a weirdo with this.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, apart from the fact it's more family we've not heard of before, 4 films in it. Apart from that, it's not that far fetched. I mean, why? There's been no reason that she's needed to contact her aunt in the past, from what I can tell. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we should probably maybe we should get into how things roll out rather than bringing in the young bunch, or maybe we should. Let's bring in the young bunch. So obviously this is kind of Scream for a new generation. That's what they're going for. 15 years after the original, very sensible. Another thing that I don't think was necessarily done badly, but was making it more difficult for themselves, is the fact that I felt I had to very much split my attention. And how can I put this? I wasn't sure whether to care about these people. Did you have that experience? You've got the old cast there, you've got the original, the OGs, and then there are these new characters, and I found myself sort of surprised when the film was sort of then later in the game telling me, oh yeah, you should care about these people.
Yeah, I kept forgetting who they were.
Yeah, I mean, even now I still don't know their names, and I think that's kind of like a natural reaction to films like this, where you have an established set of characters, and you try and insert a new, whether it be a new generation or just a new round of characters, just to sort of bump up the numbers. I mean, I didn't really care about them.
I think that's a problem. It's hard to care about them because I think your attention is still very, very directed onto Gail, Dewey, and Sydney. So it's hard for them. This is like I don't think any of the actors did anything wrong. There's only 2 of them that I didn't like.
Oh no, absolutely.
Like all these 3. So Kirby, Jill, and Olivia. I thought they were actually pretty darn good, and I really liked Kirby on the second watch. But the trouble is, it's hard for you to latch onto them, remember them, and sort of make them characters that you consider when the OGs are around. It's a lot of split attention. It's a very difficult job. And I've talked for ages about this. Sorry. You guys talk for a bit.
I think the only one that I like, I like them. I didn't really care that much for Olivia, but I think that was just because we didn't get too much screen time with her anyway. But I think the one that I really liked and resonated with was Kirby, and I do think they spent more attention and more kind of detail kind of building her character up, because as you said before, they were planning on bringing her back if this one did successfully. So I think they kind of behind the scenes were like, let's give her a little bit more character development. And there's a couple of extra scenes with her in the alternate one as well. But I really liked her more than Jill and more than Olivia, I think.
The only one I really cared about was Rory Culkin. It's just because he's Macaulay's brother, you know.
Hang on. Okay, yeah, they were good. I think let's stick with the characters for a bit before we go into the plot fun, because it unfolds very similar. I'm just trying to find. I don't think I have a photo of these guys for a while. Here we go. I'm gonna give you I'll give you a bit of a spoiler warning, guys. I don't have any photos of Trevor because I never cared about him at any point in the film.
Who?
Thank you. Point made. Who's Trevor?
Well, Trevor's such a weird character. You see him once before the first kill scene, and then they keep going on about Trevor. And I think Trevor's mentioned at the beginning as well.
Yeah, they set him up. They set him up. There's a really cool thing on the second watch. You notice how much effort. You notice how much effort Jill is putting into making Trevor creepy, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of a nothing character for me. He's there, it feels like, very much because they want to do the thing of, we have people who are effectively the new versions of Scream characters. that they Charlie here with the long hair makes it very explicit. He says he's the new Randy, and it's okay. But Trevor, I felt, yeah, he's not bad, but I just don't think they're giving him anything to do. They kind of they make him really thick as well.
I know you didn't have any pictures of him in the film, but I've actually just sent a picture in the chat if you wanted to bring that up. Just bit of deep dive and research, all that jazz.
All right, hang on.
For those who don't know who Trevor is,
God. I've seen it slowly.
No,
everyone, I think.
No,
you have to get that picture.
That's him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay.
Oh, right. That's them. Yes.
Okay. Well, that.
Please
right.
put it up. I want to know. I want to know if S. Gilman still finds them hot.
Okay. I will point out that. Susan's not going to be happy with this.
Yes, she will. It's diversity points and all that.
Oh no! Oh God! I think
got our NB. Yeah.
Okay, so Trevor.
You what?
More importantly, why does the Glad logo have a butt plug next to it? I can't have that on Family Friendly Stream.
Well, that logo. Oh yeah, that logo on the end. That does look quite sus, doesn't it?
What I was going to say about this film is that with Trevor, he keep the picture because it's relevant. It literally every scene he's in, it's literally just, oh God, Trevor's here now. Oh God, I hope he goes away. Basically, just everyone hates him. I'm always like, but why? What's he done?
But then
now
part
that I
of me was
this,
like, this poor man is being set up here to be and being painted in a light, and that was the only thing that the only time I was ever sympathetic to it. I thought he was the most boring character, but then in the back of my mind I was like, this poor man.
Yeah, they were really after him. They shot him in the huevos. You know, that's.
Sorry. In the words of Stu Marker, but wait, there's more.
No, don't. That screwed me up. He never says, but wait.
Billy Mays.
No, I'm thinking of Scary Movie. See what I mean? It works.
Yeah.
But there
was a bit where I was looking for Stu saying, but wait, there's more. And I couldn't find it. I was like, I rewatched the scene about 3 times trying to find it. And then I realized, oh no, he only says it. That's
okay. In the
effect, right?
In the non-words of Stu Marker, that I've also updated the picture gallery as well. Interesting claim.
I am not putting that up on screen.
Yeah.
I am not that desperate to summon Mr. D. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, God. I thought the Clive Barker one was going to be the gayest video I released this season. Never mind. Okay, so that is coming, by the way. I've got my script for it. Where were we? Oh, yeah, so Trevor, I think it's worth saying, like, obviously he gets a rough ride. He gets shot in the Horden. Very, very awful treatment. But yeah, they do make him do really silly things, like the bit he comes in where Kirby and Charlie have been blatantly kissing. He sees it, and then he's like, "Oh, did I interrupt something?" That felt almost like maybe a directorial slip, that they chose a cut that made it impossible for him to not see anything.
Well, I mean, there are situations like that where you just kind of you just ignore the fact you've just seen that, and there are times when you go in and you see something like that and you're like, "What, those then too? No, surely not." But that's like being so charitable. You're right. Just there's no way he didn't know he was interrupting it.
And then there's a thing that comes just after that really, really annoyed me. Kirby tells him to sort of sling his hook effectively. He says, "Okay, I'm going to go upstairs." Like, what? That's not his house. Why would he just go upstairs?
Well, yeah, and she shouts at him, "Get out of my house." I mean, the guy was a bit weird, but it's like, I don't know.
It's
I think
it's such weird choices.
Yeah, and he's constantly like, "Oh, well, I was texted by Jill to come over," and like they don't believe him, and I'm just like, how would he know there's a party going on unless he was told?
Yeah, I
Why
didn't
wouldn't you
mind that.
believe that?
I didn't mind that. That was a
Guy.
nice thing, nice subtle proof that, Jill set him up. But he's very much kept around at the end because he needs to be around at the end. So instead of just leaving, he does a silly thing where he says, I'll just go upstairs. And then when he's stored in the closet, wait, save that for the reading later, Harrian. He's just in there and he doesn't make any noise, right? He's just kind of there.
No, that's
Doesn't make
true.
any
Yeah,
attempt.
yeah.
It's really annoying. It's like Trevor is just a plot device.
I'm gonna just quickly throw out a random theory here, and it probably is absolutely. I'm probably throwing spaghetti at the wall without boiling it first, so it's probably not going to stick. Definitely not going to stick. What if Charlie's still alive and he's one of the killers in Scream 5? Hear me out. Hear me out.
Ooh.
You know the trailer
Mm-hmm.
when Sydney is on the phone. Can anyone remember what Ghostface says to him? Or her, even, sorry.
Hello, Sydney. It's an honour.
And what's the first thing Charlie says in this scene when he introduces Sydney?
Oh my gosh. Delicious.
It's an honour. Not it's an honour to meet you. Just it's an honour.
Now, a few of the reviewers that, who were given their first impressions were saying, like, to have the best experience watching Scream 5, make sure that you watch Scream 1 and 4. So what if that's
Interesting. My predictions are going to be so wrong, aren't they? That's fine. I would point out, actually, in the trailer, there is a shot of a sort of streaming... there's a streaming shot of a victim. I'm going to try and find that for you. I'll see if I can find it for you so you can see I'm not making it up. But there is definitely a shot of someone filming and streaming a kill.
Okay.
Nice.
So that would support your theory there.
God. Isn't that really risky after the New Zealand thing? You would have thunk. Oh.
If Ghostface says subscribe to PewDiePie, then definitely.
Oh no!
You just hear remove kebab in the background as he's doing it.
Oh no. Okay, so we kind of covered the characters. I suppose there's another character we should talk about. I haven't got her up because I'm just looking at the trailer trying to find this shot of the streaming image. Do you guys want to talk about Deputy Judy Hicks?
She's a thought.
Oh, she's a great thought, though, isn't she? Isn't she trad? She makes lemon squares.
It's not that
It's true.
bad. It's pretty basic bakery, if you ask me. If it was a black gâteau cake or whatever they're called, yeah, maybe then. I don't know. Again, I wouldn't say she's a massive character. There's one scene where it's her and Sydney, and it's we were at high school together. Do you remember? Another character you don't remember, and probably wasn't even in the first film. I mean, I guess it brings you back, but again, I don't know. She's kind of just there to put a bit of a spanner in the works between Gale and Dewey.
She's
plot devicey.
This is also, again, that scene was set up to create suspicion, because obviously in that scene she's standing there in the shadows. Excuse me. She was like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to spook you. I've just been doing the rounds, blah blah blah. But she's standing in the shadows for ages. Slowly comes forward. She speaks to Sydney, explaining, oh, we used to go to school. We sit next to you again. For the Scream fans, again, I only found this out today, actually. But the diehard Scream fans who know all the deep lore would have known that was supposed to be the arc for another character in the previous Scream that was actually was supposed to be a killer. So again, it was just, I think that scene was just planted there to create suspicion and make you think, oh, actually she's probably up to no good.
Oh, she was definitely being set up. Definitely being set up. In fact, there was they were considering making one of the cops. They were going to make the white cop one of the killers.
Yeah, the partner of
Yeah,
the main
Anthony
guy.
Anderson.
That's the one.
It's Anthony Anderson, isn't it?
I think so.
The guy
Possibly.
who's in The Shield.
No idea.
That's interesting as well with Judy, because the original plans for Scream 4 was it was supposed to be a springboard for a new trilogy. There was supposed to be 2 new films afterwards.
And
So I
Scream 4,
reckon-
sorry.
Go on. Sorry, I was like rambling. Sorry.
No, you're fine. It was indeed. It was meant to be a springboard, which is something quite. I'm unsure how to approach this, but maybe this is something we can swing on to now. But I was going to say that something that I think Scream 4 does well is it reuses things that were clearly in Scream 3. The idea of the return to Woodsboro. Now, in that one, they did it in a very meta way, which had advantages, it had disadvantages. But in this one, they do actually go back and, I think, reuse some of the ideas there in a quite effective way. That's quite good. In terms of being a springboard, I think one of the problems with that is that they say one of the rules is you don't F with the original. And I think that's a bit of a weakness in Scream 4. One of my big problems with it is I think it pulled its punches in not killing any of the original 3. I'm throwing that out there.
I think if they were going to do it, it should have been for the 4th film in particular. If they were going to kill off one of the big 3, they should have done it as the big, as part of the big reveal, or the big opener, the big opening scene, rather than the way that I get it probably would have hacked a lot of people off, but it created shock value.
Interestingly, they were supposed to. So one of the previous drafts of the script had, it wasn't a kill, but basically Sydney was the opening attack, and the idea was that she was going to be presumed dead for the first half of the film, and that's when we get introduced to the new characters, and they develop them a lot better. And then she was going to come back at the towards the end of the film, and she's actually alive.
Yeah, I thought actually, that's a good point, because I was thinking they could have done that like with Dewey, for example, because I mean he's a glutton for punishment anyway. So you get Ghostface battering the living snot out of him and hacking him to pieces, but it turns out that he's on life support, and at the end of the film he pulls through or something like that.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that a Scream 4?
Yeah, that was supposed to be Scream 4.
Kincaid.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're going to use him. They're going to bring him back.
Oh wow.
So
were Sydney and Kincaid an item at that point then, or?
Yeah, that's what they were. Well, that's what they're going to set up for. They were pushing a kind of romance between Kincaid and Sydney, but they reduced that in when they were redrafting it.
Oh, Charity's gone.
Oh, unfortunately, let's get her back in. You're right there, Charity.
Sorry, my microphone. I've just dropped it, and then I was like trying to panic trying to mute it, and then I clicked start cam by accident.
Oh, no worries. It's all good. Yeah, gosh, I feel maybe I shouldn't have drifted onto this because I think it is. I wanted to give my idea for how I would like to have done Scream 4 very differently at the end. So maybe we should go through a bit more what they actually did.
Get rid of the hospital scene.
Yeah.
I'm going to offend everyone in a minute.
Well, running through the very basics, we have the opening, as you saw, that ends up in a real kill, and then the idea is Sydney's coming back to promote this book, and then we get the she comes back to sorry, what's that noise?
It's it's a vape.
Oh, there
I do
we go.
apologise. I thought Michael Hughes.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, she comes back, and then the news of the killing comes out. We get an interesting scene. You can correct me on this. I might have been a bit distracted, but I had a question about this scene. We find that there's bloody photos and a knife and the mask in her boot.
Of Sydney.
Yep.
In the boot of Sydney's rental car. Quite interesting. Bringing her back into the action. giving a little Tarantino tribute shot here. Did we get it confirmed who did that, or is that left to speculation?
Oh God, I don't know.
I just assume it's Jill, but I
Yeah.
don't think we got any.
I assumed it was Alison Brie, who, by the way, is really nice to see her in this. We didn't really mention her much. Alison Brie, you've only got her mouth in the
right.
left of that, but you know, she's good. It's kind of interesting that you've got her, who she's very great in a comedy and Community, and then she's telling Courtney Cox that you're my 90s, and it's like a generation of sitcom stars apart. It's quite fun, I think. I kind of figured that it was her character Rebecca who staged this.
I don't think so. I think it was established that it was one of the victims' blood, because Dewey says to Dewey says to Sydney that you can't leave. She's like, he's like, we know it ain't you, but everyone's a suspect. So don't leave town.
I suppose Jill probably had an opportunity to get the keys out of Sydney's jacket and then put everything in there. I guess there's probably a time.
It just seemed very convoluted.
I think that will be one of the things we come back to. This is something that we didn't really get to when we discussed characters, is just kind of like the sheer numbers of them. Like the number of people you have to consider and pay attention to is greatly increased. I think it's like 9 characters that you have to basically bear in mind for Scream. And I counted about 15 characters in this. Like that's a lot of people to try and pay attention to.
It's a really good reason to have more kill scenes as well, though, which they don't take advantage of.
True.
So
we get into that, and then we get into a bit of a weird thing back at the police station where they work up the conflict between Deputy Judy Hicks and Gail. And we've kind of talked about this arc already, about how it's not a bad way to bring up a bit of tension and have Gail and Dewey doing something kind of natural that follows on, that develops, that isn't repeating stuff they've done before. But I have this screenshot saved as silly conflict, mostly because, I mean, did you believe Gail pushing a policewoman around?
wife of the deputy, kinda. To be honest.
Oh, I had trouble. I thought that was a bit unrealistic. I couldn't get into that very much.
I bought it. Yeah.
Especially for Gail Hailstorm.
And she's trying to mess around with her fella, so I can kind of imagine that to be like, do you know, with
nobody touches my man. You know,
possibly I'm on my own again, guys. God, I'm marooned in this episode. Jeez,
it's alright. I'm going to be
this
marooned.
Episode.
When we get to the hospital scene, I'm going to be absolutely ratioed. So it's fine.
Oh no!
Oh bless you.
I'm not, it does follow through all the way from Scream 1, where Gail is almost interfering with police work while Dewey's on duty, and he just lets her because he's a simp.
I think this is what it. I think this is what it was meant when they said "don't f with the original."
I guess so. We get to. I've got it highlighted as a silly conflict because there's a thing of Dewey's really hard line, like, you can't come in the interview. It's police business. Literal next scene. Yo, Sid, get in this interview room, yo. It's all kicking off in here.
Yeah.
Really annoyed me. It's like the next scene.
Yeah.
Why? I pick weird things to get annoyed by in movies.
No, that's a fair thing to get annoyed by.
No, that does make sense. I mean, Gail was just as involved in the Woodsboro murders and all of the murders since, just as much as Sydney, and just as much as Dewey, in fact. So, if you're going to be letting people, roll on into your interview rooms, Gail has just as much reason to be there as Sydney does. No,
I've always gotten, watching these films, I've always gotten the the feeling that Dewey is possibly like closer to Sydney than he is Gale, really, but in a way of like a brotherly way, if you know what I mean. But I've always
definitely.
I
gotten
agree.
that sense.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it was Dewey and her dad, which were the only two contacts on Sydney's phone on Scream 3. There was no other contacts other than her dad and Dewey.
I like that reading of Dewey as basically the older brother. Like it does feel like that to me, especially like he's used to Sydney hanging around with Tatum, you know, hanging over, doing sleepovers while he's cleaning his room. Don't interrupt him while he does that. And then Tatum dies, and it kind of feels to me like quite natural that he would transfer that protectiveness onto Sydney. I really like that stuff.
There's also the other reading that suggests that Dewey is the mastermind behind every single Ghostface, and that he is doing it so that he can protect Sydney because he deeply loves her.
How does that make any sense?
No,
don't go.
But that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut.
Moving on.
Don't remind
We
me
get
of that part.
so I think we get into a next bit where I ended up a bit surprised because I hadn't liked this the first time round. Second time round, this was kind of working for me. We get to the next big kill scene. What did you guys think of the death of Olivia?
Top 3 Scream kills.
Yeah, it was pretty good,
It's
especially
up
the
there.
aftermath. Especially the aftermath.
Yeah.
One thing that always sticks out to me with this scene is like it's a little bit, but you know when Jill and whatever the other one's called, Kirby, they're watching Shaun of the Dead. They laugh at a bit in Shaun of the Dead that isn't funny. Like, where he just pushes a zombie back and she falls on the umbrella stand, and then they like giggle, and I'm like, what? That's not the funny bit. The funny bit's when she stands up and you can see them through the hole.
I don't know. We horror fans are messed up folk. We laugh at bad things.
I thought it was funny when they were trying to talk to her, and they're like, they looked at her name badge. Oh, I don't remember the name. Tina.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh mate, look, she's well drunk.
Yeah, there's funnier bits in that scene, but they laugh at the one bit that
no. British Night. That's not. No, say that ain't true. Movie Bob writes for Film Theory.
I've seen this. I've heard it's true.
Cinema
Roberto.
Bloody Diabito.
Wow.
Diabito never change. The man is a machine. He marinates chicken in Mountain Dew.
Oh, Hassan would be well jealous.
Yeah.
Maybe needs to deliver it to Hassan. That's get us in there. Yeah. Sorry. TCG. You said you'd like this, and especially the discovery of the body. So do you want to walk me through that? Go over roughly what happens in the scene, just to catch people up and why it works.
Right. Okay. So you've got Kirby and Jill in Jill's house chatting away. Olivia phones up, and they're talking about. They're just talking about, I think, the situation, and I think Charlie phones because Olivia's on the phone to Kirby, I think, and then I think Charlie phones Jill, and so there's sort of like almost like a cross conversation, and then while that's I think after Charlie's gone, they're on the phone to Olivia, and then Ghostface attacks Olivia, and they're just watching her getting stabbed to death. From the window of their home. Obviously, Sydney gets wind of it. She rushes over there, and she walks into a rather delightful sight. Olivia has been gutted, and her bedroom has been very kindly redecorated for her. And I would, in terms of the gore, I'd probably put that, like Harry said, up there in the top 3. I'd probably put it, if I'm honest, I'd probably put it just underneath Drew Barrymore's death reveal.
It is a very nasty death.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say, actually, that I haven't mentioned so far, with this particular Scream film, the the killer definitely, to me anyway, came across as a lot more violent, a lot more aggressive, a lot more angry. Like the conversations that that Ghostface has with the people, it's definitely more direct than other conversations. You know, there's no messing about. It just jumps straight into it, where I'm gonna gut you like a fish and all this stuff. And he's just really, 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 you know, eager, very thirsty in this film in comparison to other ones. I think there's only like one bit where he does like do you want to play a game, and that's with Kirby a bit later on. But other than that, he's just pretty much like, I'm gonna kill you, and really, really eager to do it.
Yeah, definitely. It did feel nastier. It felt angrier. That was an interesting to pick up on, and we only get a brief shot of Olivia's body, which is not suitable for YouTube, but it's disemboweled. There's innards out. It's quite a lot for Scream, and I thought it was very powerful in terms of actually just being quite a genuinely upsetting image.
I mean,
which is kind of the antidote to all the stuff telling you not to care about it. That one hit quite hard.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney's reaction is pretty decent. I mean, she walks in, sees it, and immediately just goes straight down to the floor, like, oh my god, like the realization, yeah, this is definitely happening again. Jesus Christ, here we go.
Yeah, her telling Jill not to go in, not to look.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
You don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. Like, don't.
It's that stuff of that's really helping you see Jill as the next Sydney, and Sydney also kind of passing over the mantle, but also saying, look, kind of, I've been there. You don't need to see it. You don't need to look. It's good stuff.
Definitely. I mean, it's actually a really good point of what you're saying about the torch passing, because Sydney even sort of outright says it at one point when was it Robbie comes in through the window, and sort of Sydney sort of comes in and sees them, and then obviously he's like, oh, okay, better go, and obviously that's how Billy used to get into her house.
Yeah, when it's Trevor coming in,
yeah, Trevor, sorry, yeah, and she was like, you know, what's wrong? She's like, oh, nothing. You just remind me of you. You know, okay, okay, I see what you're doing.
And then, so I was liking this. I thought this was good. It had the sort of the setup of the expectation. You know, that the killer's in the room. Okay, we've seen it before, but this is what Scream does best. And then expectations dashed, subverted, if you will, in the best way. And Olivia gets it. It's a nice, you can see how it did the setup and payoff. Very good. And it's made to feel quite nasty. Great stuff. And then it's just sort of after this, I started to see more problems. And it's basically Sydney being the avenging angel. I did my best to get a good screen cap of it. Maybe I should have tried to make a GIF. But this is Sydney high-kicking Ghostface in his ghostly face.
Karate kick.
I mean, well, she should have a gun. I would not be surprised if she took self-defense classes.
Hold on.
She knows how to do this.
She's Sydney Prescott. Of course she's got a gun.
Yeah, she's on high alert. She knows what to do. Like, even when she's trying to kind of calm Jill down. Like,
This is
instantly
one
when
of-
she sees a flash of Ghostface, she goes straight into fighting. So, no, go on, Charity.
Sorry, no, this is my favorite, probably one of my favorite scenes in the franchise, really, because I love the death scene for two reasons. Like, the one, obviously, the setup of it is really good, especially when, like, he goes like, I never said I was in your closet. Like, that really got me. And I was like 12 watching this, and I was like sat there in my bed like, oh my god. And then I loved this scene because I mean I really love Sydney as a character. So just seeing her like battering the killer again, I just felt like I feel like after this point I felt like we were back in Scream. Like, a lot of things we were familiar with. Like, we've had a lot of cool scenes with Sydney just like battering the killers and like having these intense fight scenes. So it's felt like a return to form in a way, and I think this is when the film for me solidified itself as being really good. And then obviously, like, when you see her just run, like, she has no problems just running out of that house, smashing the window in and running up to protect these younger characters.
I might be a massive weirdo then. Like,
Yeah, your take's been crap.
you make it. Well, you're making me rethink
No,
it a
I'm
bit. You're making me rethink it a bit because the trouble is, she has to learn from her experiences. She's been through this 3 times now. Scream 3, she's carrying a gun. She's quite hardy. In this, I'm not sure. I don't want her to shy away anymore. And she's something of a combat veteran at this point. But gosh, I sort of felt she'd leveled up too much.
I don't think so. I mean, what was it? We're talking, 15 years by now, aren't we? And 3 separate incidences. I mean, there's only so much, I suppose, in her mind, there's only so long that she can play the victim. And like, I think it was Harry who said earlier, that moment when she left her door open at the end of Scream 3, I think that was her, for want of a better term, sort of like her awakening. Like, okay, I'm not going to play, I'm not going to be frightened all my life now. And I think this is just a natural development of her character. I mean, like I say, I go back to it, Alison Botha. Yeah. She's a real world example of someone who wasn't going to let those negative, and I say negative very loosely because it was awful.
It was a horrific ordeal.
Experiences that she went through actually control the rest of her life, and she took control of it. And that like I say, I can empathise with Sid's character because of obviously the real world example of that. Sid's just taken control essentially, and I've got no grievances with that at all.
Okay, I will be a minority in that. I think you all make a good case. I mean, I suppose you could almost cast Sid charging in as like an experienced attempt to sort of shut it down straight away.
Yeah, I mean, if she went in like Linda Hamilton, for example, I might be like, okay, hold on, slow your roll.
If Linda Hamilton was kind of what I felt like, or that those sort of later stage Ripleys, but yeah, I mean, I could be alone on this. I did find a screenshot that I'd saved already for what you were talking about earlier, TCG, about this ghost face being angrier.
Yeah,
I've got this saved as like being. I've just got saved as oddly sexual.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's absolutely no chill in that scene. No, you just.
Yeah.
I did love that scene. The only thing that annoyed me was like, she has like a couple of seconds while he's running at her. I feel like if I was in that scenario, obviously you don't know what you're going to do in that moment, but like, to me, I was like shouting at the screen, like, duck, and she just stands there screaming while he's running at her.
Yeah. So as it's a Scream film, killings multiply. We get told effectively the rules of the remake, which is something we should probably talk about. We have our Randy stand-ins, our Randins, if you will.
Randins, I love that.
Yeah.
They have their cinema club, and it's quite interesting how they're sort of not impressed by Gale. I quite like that.
What about standees? Sorry, I just.
It's an interesting one. It's an interesting scene where they talk about everything going on, and they say basically, the real ending of the original is a fake ending of the remake. I'm not sure how grounded that is in reality in terms of the 2000s, 2010 remakes they're talking about.
Yeah, 2011 feels really early to start talking about the era of remakes. Because that must have been right at the start of it.
No. A lot had come out by then. So you'd already had that had Nightmare on Elm Street in 2010. You'd had Friday the 13th in 2009.
Yep.
Stranger Calls, I think, is 2009. Shutters,
The Hills Have
2009.
Eyes.
Hills Have Eyes. Is that 2006?
2006, I think it was. Yeah. Texas
Halloween,
Chainsaw Massacre.
Of course, the OG 2003.
Friday Night came out the same year as this as well.
In fairness, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an example of what they said being true. The real ending is very different in that one. But yeah, I think their categorization is slightly off, and it doesn't give you much to go with here.
House of Wax.
That's been true every Scream. That kind of the first one, it's very close to the meta of horror, and then it carries on. And they just seem to be throwing stuff at the wall. It's like some movies do this, I think.
Yeah, I felt they didn't have as much to say about what's going on with the remakes.
Yeah.
In terms of analysis, Charity, we trying to come in?
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, I agree. I think like they had a lot of in this film. It's so weird. Like they put in so much meta humor into it, but the meta doesn't really have much to say. Really, it's not going. It doesn't go very well. It's just they just throw loads out there.
Yeah, the kind of cases they can make for the remakes aren't necessarily all that strong to point out. Like technology will be shoehorned in, or they're right when they said the violence will be up. Yep, absolutely. It's just sort of I just don't think they had as much to say, really. And things like you could talk about, it will be a memeified version. Is something that you can't really do as a rule. Like things that became a big deal in meme culture will become a really big deal in the remake. It's like
for me, it just felt like more less of rule making or setting the boundaries, and it was more predicting what it would be like in the future.
Yeah.
Because one of the things they're talking about in this is live streaming the murders and having it happen in real time, and essentially almost like your sort of live stream snuff movies, if you will. They really tried to sell you on the idea that that's how the horror film was like, but there was nothing like that out at the time. Whereas Scream and the other films were analysing already established tropes in movies. This however seemed to just sort of divert from that and look at technology's here nowadays, so if you've already said this, I apologise, but yeah, it's like all technologies at this point now where you can start to do things like this, so it's probably going to be like this in the future. And it's like, well, hang on, that's not what you normally talk about. You normally talk about things that we already know.
They could have framed that in quite an interesting and different way if they decided to drop the meta a little bit. They could have talked, because at the time, I mean, those old like gore websites and like stuff like Live Leak and like those really do those dark, really horrible videos that used to go around. Yeah. They could have maybe dropped the talking about movie tropes a little bit and maybe talked about more about like the internet culture kind of thing with that being a phenomenon.
God, they could have called that the New Zealand thing 9 years early.
You have got an interesting thing here. They do raise the streaming thing, but I just don't think they do anything with it. Like you have a bit where in this very scene where Kirby shows that he's live streaming, but I think apart from kind of like a gag later, I don't think all that much happens with it.
No, again, I feel like this is one of those plot points that are dropped, like they did in the second film with the Order of the Killings, like they did in the third one with the Order of Killings in the second one was the pattern, like the name, linking the names and that. The third one they were it's going to be in the Order of Killings based on the script, but wait, there's 1,600 script versions. Oh crap! Okay, well,
they abandoned a good idea,
and they've abandoned a good idea in this one in that actually you can have a live stream. I mean, they sort of touched upon it a couple of times. I mean,
it set up the Gale.
But for me, that had already been done in '96.
Yeah,
that was already done in '96 when Gale set up the camera in. She done exactly the same thing in the barn that she'd done in '96. She just stuck a few cameras in. Yes, the killer had also set up cameras as well. Yeah, but again, it's something that had already been done. So I don't really. It wasn't like live streaming to an audience, though. It felt like, hello, Gatsby.
He just come in and I've knocked out the wire from my headphones. So I hope you could. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear.
Okay.
But yeah, it just very much felt like I'm actually watching this on silent at the moment, and it's not like they're not exploring the innovation of technology, but they're sort of like revisiting old aspects. I feel like this film, in
Murder
kind
in
of
a
in a
film
way,
as well.
is a bit like The Force Awakens. There's a lot of things in this film that
It's not that
play
bad.
on the first. No, granted, it's not that bad, but literally the scene that I'm on now on the film on Netflix, as I'm sort of watching in silence, is you've got Charlie on the chair, duct taped to it, sat outside, and then you've got the kid. This is the bit where the killer says, "Oh, I want to play a game, ask me questions." It's just a rehash of the Casey Decker scene, opening scene.
It is, and that scene in particular, it's like they have to cheat on that one, don't they?
Yeah, and scene that we're looking at now on screen. This is just a rehash of the school of the horror club in Scream 2. This for me was kind of The Force Awakens before The Force Awakens.
Yeah, although The Force Awakens, for all its faults, you knew what characters you had to focus on.
True.
You got that right.
But then it ruined the old ones.
And whilst also forgetting whilst also forgetting who to focus on from The Last Jedi onwards.
True, but as you've pointed out, they've already done the streaming camera thing, so that isn't new. I think there was a good idea here that highlights a flaw that we saw from Scream 3 as well, and that's the failure to try and solve the mystery. Like, I feel only Gale's going, and that's a bit of a weakness. Whereas the idea of the killer actually releasing the footage, I think, is actually pretty awesome. Why didn't they do it?
Exactly.
Instead of cutting it, that would have been great. You've got footage you can comb for information, etc., etc. Try and solve the mystery. Gosh darn it!
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. See, again, that missed opportunity right there, because to my knowledge, that's not been done.
Yeah. And
in these films, at least, anyway.
Yeah, let's get one more thing in, though. Let's say something nice about Scream 4. How much did it 100% call the next 10 years when it says the only thing that matters to you is you have effed up stuff happen? How much did it just get the idea of victimhood being the most all-powerful thing?
I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Can we go back to Nico and ask him that question?
I'm not putting that back on screen. That is absolute degeneracy. And that's coming from me, you know.
I saved the images as Nico, no, and Nico, no.
Wait a minute, Nico, no. Oh, gosh, yeah. So I think that is quite an astonishing degree of prescience. I really liked that. That stood out to me, you know.
Well, you first, Charity.
Sorry, you go. It's fine.
Well, yours might be more on point, but I was just going to say, when we're talking about how it's the Force Awakens of it, as I say, it didn't destroy the characters. I mean, they all grew from what they were to places where they're clearly different characters than what they were from the first film. Whereas if you watch Force Awakens, Han's still a smuggler, Leia's still a general. That they were supposed to get together, and then they split up, and they have a kid that neither of them seem to actually care about. It's like, what's the point? So at least Dewey and Gale still care for each other. There's things thrown in the works there. So.
What we can conclude from that is that that there was a steady decline in the writing ability of the writers, because in 2011 it was on the decline, and it was achieved by 2017 when that film came out. Was it really? It might have been 2016. Christ. Wait a minute, Matt. No.
I was going to turn off that pesky ad block going earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're just devolving into internet lore here. Let's not.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on to stop us devolving into meme speak. I'm going to highlight something else that annoyed me randomly, and it's Stabfest. This bugged the heck out of me.
Why?
There is no way they're getting together to watch 7 films. No way.
Oh no, I disagree. Completely disagree. I know so many people at uni that did that for Harry Potter. They absolutely would be people that do that. Yeah.
Oh,
All
And
8
also-
Harry Potter films in a day. I wanted to die.
Also,
Oh.
don't forget, this is in Woodsboro. You've got a bunch of teenagers that know the lore behind. You know, their films, the Stab films, are literally set, all bar one, which is time travel, or was it space? Either way, you know, it's all based off of Woodsboro. This is probably something that, you know, whilst you know
This is
it's incredibly
town pride.
dark. This is cultural pride for these teenagers. Whoa, look all these murders that took place here. Whoa. Let's get drunk and have promiscuous relations with hot girls while we get drunk and watch some horror movies. Way.
Man, you have not been young for a while.
I just can't see it. I can't see these, what are they, 17, 18-year-olds organising this setup and getting 100 people in there and then watching 7 films. That's like 14 hours of footage.
Yeah, if this happened with Harry Potter at uni, which it did, I can see it happening here.
Was it
Absolutely.
8 films? It's 8
Yeah.
Harry Potter films, isn't it?
Yeah, because of Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2.
I love that simultaneous. Oh.
It bugged me.
It's
Okay,
just
look,
got
I can
so
be annoyed
bad.
about random things.
Yeah.
My prediction's going to be so completely off this week.
Well, what got me with this bit though was when they then run back to the house. He's like, "Oh, they're not going to ruin my night. I'll put Stab 7 on," and I'm like, "You didn't even get through 1."
I know.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happens in Stab 2. They've never released any of that footage.
It's delicious. Well, I think they clearly showed us that chat. There's 18 of you in chat. Can you tell me,
That's good numbers.
am I way off on this? Is 7 Stab movies just crazy, or is that something that this would happen? Is Stabfest realistic? That's what I want to know, chat. You got to let me know.
I'll ask you a question. Is 12 Friday the 13th movies realistic?
Well,
I think. Do you mean to watch in one sitting?
Go for it. In a row?
It's 37 in a row. Wait, hang on.
Skillman, is that...
Skillman has dropped some deep lore here.
Is that... Oh my god,
Oh
that's...
my goodness. Okay, we're going to have to look that up.
I need to see this.
Get on
Sure.
that. So, all right. TCG, that is your mission. Find this trailer.
Find the trailer.
But, it's kind of interesting thing that they showed in the Stab footage here that Robert Rodriguez directed the Stab footage, which is true.
Oh my god, there is actually a Stab 2 trailer. Skillman, you are a legend.
Yeah, you're an absolute boss. Charity, you just sent the link in private. Is that the
This
the actual?
is no. This is a video that goes through because TCG was talking about like he wants to know what like the other Stab films are about. This is a channel that I don't know where all the sources are from, but apparently this is like a rundown of what all of the Stab films are about, like a synopsis of them.
I'm gonna have to look this up after the stream. BK, I've tried, man. I struggle to do 3 films on Halloween. I'm very weak and feeble, you know.
Matt, you have no idea how little 17 to 18-year-olds have to do at weekends.
Oh, maybe I don't. I just I've tried my Lord of the Rings marathon. I'm sorry, I just end up doing it one a day for 3 days. And
Just because you're weak doesn't mean teenagers are.
I have chickens to care for, darn it. Okay, I've got the link there. I'm not gonna risk playing the trailer, but I'm absolutely going to look it up and I'll see what we can do. Maybe we'll do something on the Stab series and at the start of next week. Sorry, I think it was TCG said something about how they just go back to Charlie's house, and that was something that I found interesting.
I think that was Harry who mentioned that.
Oh, sorry,
Is this
Harry,
when he went back to go and just to carry on watching Stab? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
bro,
Yeah,
you
but
didn't even
to
get past the
Stab
first
7.
one. Yeah.
Well,
Man,
it was
I can't wait for the Harry Potter fest. I'm gonna go straight to Deathly Hallows. Like what?
What were the ones after that? those marvelous magician-y ones. I think it had Jude Law in it.
Oh, Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
You'd be like, yeah, I
Fancy-
can't wait for Harry Potter. Just start with Fantastic Beasts.
those films are terrible.
I wanted to ask about this one, and oh gosh,
Red Bull.
I can't. Okay, apparently I am an absolute weakling, and chat thinks that these movie fests are absolutely okay. All right, good. I'm taking an absolute beating.
You're
with this
taking
game
some
tonight.
L's, aren't you? You're taking some big L's.
This isn't working, is it?
I don't know if my attention span can quite go for that long though.
Thank you, Charity.
I don't
Thank
know.
you. I
I've never
appreciate
tried
that.
it. I've never once tried it. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think I just fall asleep. Not because I don't like films, just because I feel like my body just sees that I'm sat down for that long, just goes sleep time.
I can't do it anymore. I've got chickens to care for in the morning. But
Weak.
anyway, what I basically found was getting us towards the finale. I found there was something of that Scream 3 energy when they get back to Charlie's house.
Yes.
Like it was kind of something we raised last week with Scream 3 is that basically the plot was in what I call things just happen mode.
Yeah.
And it's like the protagonists aren't really driving it. Although you can make a decent case for Gail being the protagonist because she's the most active in trying to solve it. You get into that mode and they have the stab fest and it's like, okay, yeah. Stab fest is a big party and then it seems like it just kind of flops to this end. Like they just sort of decide it's finale time.
Well, this for me is a bit of a fake out, really, because this isn't the end of the film. Unlike the third one, where it did end in the mansion, you're kind of given the impression that this is where the film is supposed to end, but obviously we know it doesn't. It ends at the hospital. So, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. This was very much something needs to happen. Let's get them all in one place.
Yes.
But it also at the same time feels like a little bit of a fake out because it's like, right, we've got them all in one place. We've moved the story along. Now let's put them all in another place because Gail's not there yet because Gail can't get there. So we got to bring them to Gail now. I think that's what
it's like the double
how it
fake
goes.
out.
Yeah.
Actually, what Charlie's saying right here is he's repeating the rule that the real ending is the fake ending in the original. The real ending of the original is a fake ending of the remake. So, you know, you thought it would be Stab Fest, but it's not. It's this party, but it's not. It's a hospital. You know, it's the old double fake out, just like the start. Oh my gosh, it's like poetry.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I didn't actually think of that until now.
Yeah,
If that is deliberate, it doesn't save them. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't save it by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, that's just how I felt when I watched it back again.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as the beginning, which is telling you not to care. These are real events that are happening in succession, but it does feel, it just kind of has a feeling to me of someone slapped the finale button and just be like, oh yeah, we're doing it. Get everyone here. Trevor's turning up. He's not going to leave. He's going to go upstairs for no reason, and then he's going to hang out in a closet and not try and escape or anything.
Well, he had his legs, he had his hands tied up and legs tied up, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was being very quiet and obedient in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'd hear things, you'd hear him wiggling around, but yeah, no, he didn't. I mean, yeah, him being in the closet, not trying to bang on the door, yeah, bad. I mean, the rest of the party though, it's, I mean, what are the bad bits? I mean, people randomly disappear, but obviously Jill disappears because she's a killer.
Can I just direct you to the second image that I shared in our group chat? If you're talking about obedience.
Hang on, I will. Wait a second. Is this more Nico?
Yeah, this was the second image I shared that you refused to show. That might explain the obedience.
Family stream, please. Oh gosh darn it! I forgot it actually. I'm gonna get it back up again. There's a whole reason I've got a new avatar this time.
Yeah.
I do need to point this out. The absolute rampant product placement for Red Bull in Scream 4 cracked me up. So yeah, that's why it's called Product Horror Show. It's all over it. If you do a Scream 4 rewatch, count the Red Bulls.
Skillman mentioned as well that, to be fair, Neil Prescott was quiet in the closet, and indeed he was. Indeed he was.
Yeah, that you got a point there, Skillman. You got a point. Skillman, did you reference the Red Bull as well? Someone else noticed the Red Bulls. Never mind. Okay.
You should also count the amount of times the camera hovers over an iPhone screen while somebody very slowly opens it to show the function.
Gosh, that's so true. That happens as well. There is some sneaky product placement up in here. Definitely. We get to... There's kind of an interesting thing in this. If I can find my screenshot. No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find it. Still going. 19 maybe? The bit where I'm looking for the one... This one. I'm sorry, folks. I have a lot of screenshots. This was the other bit of funny prescience. Like, it's kind of interesting. They don't really do much with it. Kind of doing the whole, like, you'll survive if you're gay. So they're kind of talking about the sort of upcoming Netflix casting. You know, that's in there as well. They don't really do much with it. There's kind of a fun reference to it. But I thought it was kind of funny that they were highlighting it, you know?
Yeah, especially when it's that early. Which I think these things only occurred post 2016, but they talked about it even back then. And I mean, you go even further back, even in Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister, they were making jokes about this.
Oh yeah, I was watching season 2 a week or so ago, and they had a whole episode about that. Watch Yes Minister, folks. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, where he gets a photo with a black child, and he says, "Oh, look, I'm with one of the black good publicity."
What?
Yes,
basically,
Minister is very special and wonderful.
Yeah. Basically, the minister gets a picture with a black child, but he doesn't know how to, like. He basically wants to say, "Oh, that's a really good thing, because it shows I'm not racist," but he doesn't want to say, like, he doesn't know whether to call it, say, a coloured child or a black child. So he just goes, "Oh, good publicity."
I'm just looking at the video footage. They're just going over the big reveal, the motive. It looks like they were using the video footage to upload it essentially to show the world how they were victims, as opposed to like what we said.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, just release it bit by bit. But I think the idea of it is to cast them as victims, because obviously Jill was a bit sour grapes about Sydney getting all the limelight.
Yeah, she reveals she's managed to fake it so it looks like it's all from Trevor's phone, which kind of helps you think that back when in the very first time you see her and Trevor is sort of messaging everyone else, you almost wonder if that's her using Trevor's phone.
Yeah.
Next to everyone else. You almost wonder that. We get another bit of kind of interesting stuff here that is frustrating but also kind of clever.
And again, it's messing with the original.
Yeah, messing with the original, making you run through it. Okay, so we're all... You know, the game here is very much with the audience and teasing us and be like, you know this scenario, you've got expectations, we're going to play with them. And there's a thing like she's asked a question about the remakes and she just lists all the remakes that have been done. And it makes the point, there's a massive wave of them. The Platinum June wave, as we call it around here. And then the killer just basically said, you know, she obviously hasn't got the right answer because she didn't listen to the question. But she's allowed to go outside anyway, which kind of tells you that they pitched it so that she could get it right. So I think they were always planning to just do the old Uno reverso on her right out there. And she sort of accidentally stumbled into revealing it. If that makes sense for people. I mean, it's established that she is a horror nerd.
Yeah, and I like the screenshot you've got as well. This callback to the very first kill. And then it's also got a good subversion. Turns out,
I mean, it's effective. It's effective.
Yeah.
Well, I found it effective. I'd love to hear, Charity, what did you think of this bit?
I really quite liked this bit. I thought it was clever how she started rattling them off. And like you're supposed to kind of guess that the remake he's talking about is his own remake of Stab. But like I really liked that. I thought that was quite well written. Because you have to infer a lot for that, but I think when you do, it's actually quite the scene makes the scene quite effective. And then it was also effective because when she gets killed or she gets stabbed, it's like I found that quite effective because she was really one of the only new characters that I really liked. So it was actually quite sad.
Yeah, she's one that I had made attention. I mean, in some ways, I don't think she's believable as a teenager. But she
looks 30.
She does look wild.
Well, just like the haircut, the way she dresses, the way she acts. She doesn't seem like a realistic teenager, but she is a likable, fun character, you know. And so I liked it. I did feel it. It was quite painful, and especially after she's, you know, connected with him. She's made the move. They've kissed. It was good. This was one of the kills that was very effective in the movie.
Made me wince.
Yeah, definitely.
Physically, like. Just one little side note: Hayden Panettiere is she's also really good in. I don't know if you've played Until Dawn. She's plays one of the main characters in that. She's also really good in that. I think the reason why the character worked for me is because she's just a good actress.
Oh yeah, I like her. I don't know. Is that a game?
Yeah, it's a
game. Yeah, it's a game.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a massive Luddite, so...
It's another one that Harrian's yet to complete.
Oh, shame on you, Harrian.
Oh, didn't they have a sequel to Until Dawn and it was really bad?
Yeah, they've made quite a few of them. That production team.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know one EFAP played and it was really bad, which made it really entertaining because it was EFAP.
Was that the one in the desert?
No, it was like witches and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I know that one. I might have it, actually.
They've made three.
Yeah.
It was annoying because it's not linked at all to the first game. Only that it's like it's part of an anthology thing. They've made three of them so far.
The dark anthologies, yeah. Sorry, just going back to with regards to the death scenes. Can we talk? Are we all right to move on to Jill, perhaps, or is there anything else that you?
I'd be happy to. I think we do want to be getting towards the roundup point.
So, I just want to talk for a second.
Finales to talk to. So go ahead.
So yeah, I just want to talk about Jill's role in this bit. So obviously, yeah, they do the exposition dump, they do the big motive, and Charlie gets betrayed by Jill because he thinks the nerd. He's playing the role of Randy, or trying to play the role of Randy.
Yeah.
In this remake of Stab, and he thinks he's going to get the girl, i.e. Jill, and she's like, nah, actually, no, you're not, and stabs him in the heart. Poor lad. And obviously, then she stabs. I think, she stabs Sydney again, and you think, oh no, she's dead, and now she's got to make it look convincing. The bit where she's beating herself up. Have you guys seen Liar Liar?
Yes.
Oh, mate.
Please reference Fight Club instead.
Well, I see. I'd reference Fight Club, but the thing is, it looks so ridiculous. It's literally like the scene in Liar Liar where Jim Carrey's like struggling to think of ideas how to get the court case delayed for the next day because he can't tell a lie, and he's in the toilet and he decides, what would be a good idea if I start beating the living crap out of myself. That's a hilarious scene, right? I was almost expecting at one point someone to walk in, see Jill what she's doing, be like, "What you doing?" And then for her literally to turn around and be like, "I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind?" It was just as comical as ridiculous.
Liar reference. Very unexpected.
Yeah, but it was ridiculous, like throwing herself like against the glass portrait, throwing herself down the.
I really liked it.
Yeah,
it looked really. It looked like she was really hurting herself.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It looked painful, but at the same time, it looked ridiculous. From my perspective, because look, I could only just see Jim Carrey shoving his head into a bin and smacking himself against the wall while she was doing pretty much the same thing. The one bit that I did think was pretty cool was where she did get the knife and sort of like shoved it into the rammed herself into the wall. Yeah. That was pretty good. But yeah, everything else just seemed Jim Carrey-esque.
I don't know. I thought this was more realistic than the Fight Club scene, because in the Fight Club scene he actually punched himself, whereas, which is what I prefer about this one, she's kind of jumping on coffee tables, which is a bit different to kind of punching yourself into one. The thing with the wall and the knife, and she really screams when that happens. That's really good.
Yeah, I really felt that. It got me wincing.
I think my main criticism of this bit is that, the idea is that you're framing Trevor. Why shoot him in the penis and then the head?
Yeah.
Then how does he kill everyone if you've done that?
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. Yeah, shooting him in the knob ain't a bright idea,
Well, don't shoot him in the head either. Shoot him somewhere where it's going to take a while for him to die.
Shoot him in the chest.
Yeah, exactly. The stomach takes a bit longer as well.
Yeah.
And because otherwise, but she's pretty clever. She pulls her hair out with his hand. Most of that's neat. It's just the whole her motivation as well. Probably is one of the better ones in the Scream franchise.
Yeah, very telling.
For me, I found it really effective, and I think it actually really does tie the theme together really well of like what the film's talking about. It's because like like as you were saying, TCG, the Ghostface in this film is very, very brutal, and I think that's reflected in how psychotic she is. She's absolutely mental.
Yes.
Yes. Because of that, the way she's doing this to herself, it's so frenzied and so exaggerated. But then it also ties back into the theme of this is an exaggerated version of the first Scream film. People are going to get to see it. It's going to be far more visceral. It's far more violent, and people are going to actually physically see it happen. So what she's doing to herself is even more exaggerated because of that, and I think that highlights that really quite well.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, don't get me wrong. It's it is quite brutal what she does to herself. It's just I can't separate myself from that particular scene. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. It's just
it would be so easy to parody this film.
If you put some Benny Hill music over it, it would work.
Oh no,
that's way too harsh.
That's a fine pun. Thank you, Slim. That's a RuPaul's Drag Race level pun. Can I at this point can I drop my fanfic? If that's cool. So like I was going to get into this earlier, but this is probably the time to mention it because I like to rewrite films a little bit, and this is where I got really excited for Scream 4. Like this felt to me like it was doing something really right, which was it was being a reboot that was going way outside the bounds of the original. It's given you the familiarity, but it then capitalizes on it and it goes brave. It goes beyond that. And my fanfic version for what I would have loved to have seen relates to it being not afraid to do the kills. That is, I wish they'd killed off Gail. And in this scene, they've stabbed Sydney. I would have liked it if she had gotten away with it, if Sydney had died. And you then have a scenario where Jill has gotten away, she's in hospital, she's talking to Dewey, and the killer has won. It's happened in horror occasionally. It's quite good. And it's a great, it's a nice surprise. It's powerful because characters we love have died. And it's novel because the killer's gotten away with it. But it's a great setup as well for the next film. This was meant to be a springboard for a trilogy. So I would love to see Scream 5 following on with Jill victorious, and then a new killer turns up. And you've got this weird scenario where you are kind of you're basically aware who the killer is from the start. But you've got a pair of contrasting killers, and that would be Scream in some really new territory. And I thought that would have been really exciting. I kind of wish they'd gone there.
It would have saved that hospital. It would have saved that hospital scene as well.
Well, the hospital scene, even though it is, don't get me wrong, it is awful. It in itself is quite a meta scene, because Jill, again, she says, the ending, again, this is why I think it was a fake out anyway, but she says, the ending was supposed to take place in the house. She's like, this is just silly. So again, I think, yes, it's awful, but actually, again, this is the film kind of, taking a big steaming dump on itself and saying, look, we're now starting to get into ridiculous territory now, which multiple sequels tend to do after a while. I mean, there's enough horror franchises out there with enough sequels that more than prove that.
And just before we properly get into the hospital scene, one thing that really made me laugh is when these two are on stretchers, but what's it called? Jill's on one. I just got all the reporters putting microphones to her, and all I could think of was the Joe Rogan meme. That's all I could think of at that point, where he's like got his microphone up to someone who's dying.
Before I absolutely disappoint everyone with my thoughts on the hospital scene, I just want to bring up, did anyone else notice, this was a bit earlier in the film, but do you know when she tells Jill to hide under the bed, did anyone notice the very subtle Halloween reference?
No.
Oh, no.
Go on.
She says, get under the bed, do as I say.
Oh. Yeah. Laurie in the house at the end, yes.
Again, they're messing with the original because they're throwing out random Halloween quotes. Again, I'm telling you, this is just the Force Awakens before the Force Awakens.
Well, that's why I have my fanfic where you break out from it. You got this connecting thing, but you have to sort of sever the connection. What was it? What's the phrase? Kill the past. Anyway,
Well, my only concern with that, now don't get me wrong, that sounds like a really interesting idea. My only concern with that would be if it's poorly executed, and I think, don't get me wrong, I am excited and I'm looking forward to the next Scream film. My only concern is with the third and fourth ones, there were things that were quite poorly executed, and again, I mean, I look at Dexter, for example, season 8, the last episode, which I still refuse to watch, even though I'm now watching the new bloody series. I just don't think I would be invested in the sequels if I feel like they ruined. I mean, if they, I tell you what, if it was a new franchise, brand spanking new, similar concept in terms of Scream, but new characters, blah blah blah, you get emotionally invested. If they did that right off the bat and then moved forward, I might be more invested in that. But these are characters that we've grown up with, you and I, and people like Harry, and you're being introduced. You were only introduced to them fairly recently. I don't think I personally would feel comfortable with that. I'd probably go into that sequel with a bit of bitterness, Yeah. Maybe a bit angry, like, you bitch. You playing the victim, you little bit, you little scumbag. You get your throat sliced in Minecraft.
Oh god, I don't know. I think the whole it would be good if it weren't done crap.
It's a good thing. Yeah. but it's an interesting risk to take, is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
and it would have to be pretty much. It would have to be pretty much produced near perfect, I think, especially with a franchise like this.
Yeah,
to pull off.
Yeah, it would be a very big challenge for a creative team, including Gatsby, who's just come in.
But also, sorry to interrupt, but again, with a franchise that like Scream, that analyzes meta within horror franchises, if you're then now trying to take them into unknown territory, that kind of again goes against the whole theme as to what Scream actually is, which is why I think you can do it. And I think it's a risky thing, but I think it's well executed, and I think if it's executed well, then you could pull it off. But I think you'd need to take that into a franchise where it needs to be tested independently,
Well, yes, I'd say maybe not unknown territory of like knowing who the killer is, killer POV. It's relatively underexplored, but there's a fair amount there. So I'd think of the old school Maniac is a great example.
Right.
Peeping Tom, great example. Eyes of Laura Mars is kind of close to that. My brain is slipping on a few of those. Sorry, of course, the most recent one for why it wouldn't be too far out in the waters is a 2009 film, so 2 years before this, called Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which is a slasher film told from the killer's POV whilst he's being interviewed for a documentary. It's an amazing little film.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like Jill would walk into the sequel not as the killer, like she was the killer in the first film.
Oh yeah, sorry, not the killer, but she was the killer.
Yeah, and now she genuinely is becoming. Well, I wouldn't say a victim, but I'd suppose it would be trouble of her own making, wouldn't it? Really.
Yeah, and I would see it as an opportunity for like Dewey doesn't get to be the hero too often. It would be a chance for Dewey to uncover that she was the killer.
I mean, he's only been the hero once of the 4 films, really.
Yeah. We've probably diverted a bit too much time on the fanfic. We do need to get to the wrap up. So let's talk Hospital.
Oh no, let's not. It's crap. Come on, let's finish it. I could go on about this for an hour.
All right, go on, Charity. You are keen. You are keen.
Go on.
Right. I know. It's ridiculous. I know it's over the top, but I couldn't help but love it. Because it was just so silly, but I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. I think maybe because I love Sydney, Gale and Dewey, and you get to see them all in a scene together and they take her out. And I know it was a bit comical when she goes, "Can I have one last word?" What is it? Go on, clear. And then Sydney comes up and goes, "Clear." But do you know what? Seeing that gives me goosebumps every time, because I just think, oh, it's so cool. I know that it's objectively very goofy and over the top, and then with Judy as well, but I just really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, you can like. I mean, the biggest issue I have is what the hell is Jill's plan? Like, what is her plan? She can't get away with this. Which is her plan? And it was even said like, oh, Sydney might have memory loss, so you're gonna have to remind her of everything. I'm like, oh, this could go in a cool direction. And it's just like, I'm gonna kill her. It's like, what? Why? And then you have the clear line, which I'm just like, what is going on now? The saving grace of this whole scene, I'd say, is when they do the kind of killer comes back bit. It's the best one, I think, of the Scream series, because she's not an idiot. She tries to sneak behind quietly and gets a weapon and tries to actually kill them. But then obviously Sydney's got spider sense or something, so just turns around and shoots her.
It's like, I've done this before.
Yeah.
It is over the top. I don't think it's much more over the top than, say, the end of Scream 2, which is like literally happening on a theatrical stage.
Yeah, that's.
But the big problem is, as you say, what's the plan?
Yeah. I want to be a victim and frame someone else for murders. It's like, how are you going to do that in the hospital?
Absolute haram. Here's an idea. Sorry, just to jump in.
No, it's all right.
Here's an idea. When Dewey is talking to Jill and he mentions, Sid might pull through, blah blah blah. He does mention that she might not remember anything.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was the case. Then you could use Horrorshow's idea of Jill getting away with it, Sydney being none the wiser because she thinks, oh my god, my cousin saved the day, as opposed to actually being the killer. And then you go into a sequel and maybe then the truth starts to slip through and
of course,
the truth is revealed.
Because Sydney's still alive, Jill
Sydney's
doesn't
still
get
alive.
the attention. She's still fighting for top spots. So, she's going to have to go again.
Man, I really wish they did that instead of having a nonsensical hospital scene with no doctors or nurses about. There's guns going off.
Why aren't we screenwriters, guys? Why are we not screenwriters?
Because Stu would have come back in this film.
That's why we should be the screenwriters.
Yeah.
I will say I was never ever on board the Stu train, and now
Hop aboard, Charity.
I've had
There's
a new
plenty of room.
revelation in my head now. I'm like, no, I'm onto it now.
He's got plenty of reason to come back. He's got plenty of motive. It makes sense. It makes sense.
So I think, that brings us to the end of Scream 4. We've had the thing, we've had the finale. It's shot slightly more hauntingly than usual, which is quite interesting, and it does like poetry, it rhymes. Let's not forget that. They repeat the shot from earlier. It's kind of interesting. But, that is the end of our Scream 4.
You know what bugs me about this, right? Sydney doesn't really seem to be that bothered that she's just killed her cousin. I mean, yeah, I know her cousin was a serial killer and, blah, blah, blah. But there's still blood at the end of the day.
To be fair, well, she's a bit of a psycho. She's killed like 4 or 5 people and she never seems to care.
Well, I mean, she held her. I mean, she at least held her brother's hand as he died, and she just sort of looks at her dead body as like
Well, I guess the Scream,
what a day.
the Scream 3 one was just a straight up murder. I didn't like the Scream 3 ending because of that. Because the guy's on the floor, 2 stab wounds, no knife near him, and she's just like, "Oh, I'll stab him again," and I'm like, "No, that's serial killer." Like, that's a serial killer move.
Weak.
But,
He had it coming, didn't he? Though.
Yeah.
True, but
I reckon she's just like desensitized.
Probably,
So,
yeah.
like, this is like, she's like, I'm tired. You know what? This has happened to me so many times. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. You know what? I don't even care if it was my own mother trying to kill me right now. I mean, she's the reason why this is all happening in the first place.
yeah.
I mean, it's good it moved away from that plot line. It didn't drag Maureen into it again.
Yeah, this is
That's a
true.
good one. Do we think it's stuck by the golden rule? Don't F with the original.
No. This film is just effing with the original.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's just that there's certain bits, there's certain moments where they're trying to, again, like I keep calling it, it is literally The Force Awakens before The Force Awakens.
I don't think it ruins characters enough to say that.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's before The Force Awakens because the decline. It's on the decline. It's just going over the hill, and obviously The Force Awakens is the roller coaster going straight down. But yeah, I think this is where Scream 5 is going to be different. I think it's going to try and be a film in its own right and not try and just shoehorn a bunch of new newbies in just for the sake of new generation, because they tried it with this one. It failed catastrophically in terms of trying to deliver. I mean, look, how many of these new generation characters are there going forward? There's none. They're all dead. Apart from apart from Lemon Square's thought, the new generation got wiped out in one film. I mean, weak.
No staying power.
Exactly. So I think so.
To...
So this one is going to go back to the beginning. It's going to bring Stu back, and it's going to kill Gale and Dewey. Stu, and I think they're going to toy with your idea, Horror Show, in that film. Stu's going to survive, Sydney's going to survive, everyone else will die, and the sequel, well, we'll have to wait and see.
I'm up for it. We're going in optimistic, but I mean, this is a completely new creative team, and so frankly, they've got one good film behind them, so I reckon there's time. From what I've seen, they get the benefit of the doubt. But we need to wrap up our coverage of Scream 4. So, folks, in the chat, I'm going to want some scores from you out of 12. Get your burgers in there, your burger scores, and we'll go through our closing thoughts. And I think traditionally we would probably start with Charity. Do you feel okay giving your closing thoughts and your score out of 12 burgers?
Yeah, I am. So I think part of the reason why I love this film so much is it's one of the first Scream films I watched. I don't know if I watched it before Scream.
Sorry,
before the first one. Wait, what?
Matthew Lillard's in Scream 4 as well.
Is he?
What?
Yeah, he's a guy. He's an extra. He's one of the guys at the Stabathon.
Oh my gosh, have you got a screenshot for me?
I will try and find one.
You work on that. Oh my gosh.
The evidence is mounting here, really, isn't it? Let's be honest. Do you reckon it? Unless, like in the fifth one, they kind of tie it of like maybe that was literally him just spying on what was going on throughout all the other films.
Oh my goodness. let's get back to closing thoughts and scores. Yeah, because our scores coming in. This is good.
No, but I think I would. I did like. Obviously, it's got a lot of flaws in it, but I just think that I think I just have a particular kind of emotional affinity to it. I think objectively, I would have to give it an 8, but I know in my head I'm giving it a 10.
I love that. You've got to do that with some films. Like, yes, there are a whole bunch of flaws in here. However, this is absolutely my jam. So we're giving it a +4. Okay, you give it a 10. Give it a 10. Just rock it. We're seeing others come in here. Okay, slightly more conservative ones going in. I'll go for my closing thoughts on it. I usually come in last. I'll drop in now. I think there were some good ideas in here. I think it was very prescient towards the ideas of the currency of victimhood and the sort of upcoming Netflix casting. I think it was weak on its analysis of remakes, but there were some good ideas in here. You have all softened me a bit on how I feel about Sydney in this. She is still jarring to me a fair bit, but you've talked me around, so that's one of my major problems. I still think it has a problem of being quite convoluted in a large number of its setups. In the middle, it does get quite messy until it gets its pieces together for the end. But there are some good setups and payoffs based on expectations from the original. Chiefly the death of Olivia, which I think is a very powerful moment. So what I'm trying to say is, like Scream 3, there is, whilst it can get a bit messy, there's good stuff in here. It looks very good. It does shake things up a little bit. And new characters like Kirby and Deputy Judy Hicks I actually really liked. So it's made me like it a lot more on the rewatch than I had the first time. So I would probably come in at slightly more conservative one, probably a 7 for me. Moving on to That Crime Guy.
Sorry, yeah, I couldn't find a picture. There seems to be a bit of debate on it, but it looks like he was there as one of the Stabathon guys, but mainly because he was there to see Neve Campbell. So yeah,
Absolute
unfortunately,
legend.
I have no image, and there appears to be no image that can be found. Yeah, I mean, in terms of this film, I don't think it was the best of the bunch. Still, for me, the first two easily hold their own. Obviously, the first is iconic. This, for me, it works in some ways because it adds a dynamic to Dewey and excuse me, and Gail's characters that we hadn't seen in previous films, and it was interesting to see how Gail was sort of coping with life away from the limelight. Obviously, Sydney's character as well. I know that you weren't too keen on it, but I respect. I understood the evolution of her character between the third and the fourth ones. Where this failed for me, though, is that it tried to emulate too much of the first film without trying to make its own identity. And the characters that they introduced into the film, with the exception of a couple, obviously Kirby being one of them, and as I say, Rory Culkin, the Charlie, only because of the familial ties to Macaulay Culkin, were the only real two characters I actually gave a toss about. Everyone else just sort of didn't really do it for me. Even and again, they sort of threw in the comical element of the film in this film like they did in Scream 3. With the two sort of bumbling cops, and for me it wasn't really. I just don't see the need for it to be in these kind of films, so it kind of let me down there. And obviously the opener as well. I mean, the opening scene was just a complete letdown in comparison to the first three. So on balance, there's probably more I could bitch and moan about this film than I can in terms of praising. But that being said, it is a film that I would rewatch, and it is a film that I would accept into like the canon of the sort of like the Scream franchise. In terms of burgers, I mean, it's going to get some cheese and ketchup for the extra gore, and obviously the little comical lines. The F Bruce Willis bit, that death was again. While I don't think it's needed, it was pretty funny. As well as the scene where Jill was throwing herself about like Jim Carrey in a bathroom. So it's going to get extra cheese for that. I would probably give this about a 6 out of 12 burgers.
That's fair. All right, and Harrian, closing thoughts and score, please.
Oh, better get your prediction up.
This film would probably be an 8 or 9 out of 12 if it didn't have its beginning and end. Unfortunately, it's got its beginning and end, which it does bring it right down. Because the hospital scene is just about a 2 out of 12. It's all over the place. Don't get me wrong, Charity. Like, you can like it, but my,
it's very.
You can like it, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
Although I will say, in that scene's defence, Jill does openly admit that it is silly that they're now having this final showdown in the hospital. I will say that in that particular defence. Doesn't stop it from being silly, though. And if you're, again, it sort of goes back to previous Screams. It's like, if you're going to point out tropes, why then go ahead and do that very thing?
Yeah, it's the boys' problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I say, without the beginning and end of the 8 to 9, it'd probably be close to a 7, but you had too many characters in there that didn't do enough with, they're trying to frame it on this guy you don't know, but on the bright side, it's finally good to have 2 killers that you actually remember, rather than Scream 2 and 3 where you're like, who? More so with 2. And I'd say the motivation for the killer is probably the one that's most solid out of all the Scream films, with the jealousy of Sydney being famous and wanting that. But then the other killer has the scary movie motivation of, you ignored. Oh, you only noticed me now, and it's like, I mean, I was gonna say he got her, but then obviously you have the scene where he's got his bloody hand on the window saying, "Oh, let me in," and she doesn't. So that probably tipped him. But yeah, there was this big through line through the film. The plot was fairly solid up until right at the end. So yeah, putting all that together, oh no, it all just falls apart too much. Though I think 5 out of 12 with cheese. I think that's the same as the last two films as well.
I think it is.
Oh, well.
There you go.
How interesting. Go on, TCG.
Right, here we go. Prediction for, and this is it. Verbatim. Prediction for my boy Harrion. This was a drop for Harrion. He felt the story was overall directionless before getting into the hospital foolishness. He likely had an issue with Sydney coming back as a very different character, read Kung Fu Badass, and disliked the issue of the planted bloody evidence in the trunk.
Yeah, that's bad.
He disliked the streaming angle and Stabfest as a concept and is unhappy with the cops disappearing when convenient.
And does that happen?
It's Olivia's kill. The cops have just left the house because they saw something and they disappeared.
He didn't mind the characters and may like some of the prescient themes. Pointless reboots appealing to victimhood for status. I think he'll agree that the stab sequences sabotage the film. Still, he gave Scream 3 a 5, and I think he'll be consistent. 5 out of 12, unless he really likes Hayden Panettiere, in which case 6 out of 12.
Who? I don't know.
Kirby.
Oh, right. I don't like her.
She's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Nah, she looks like a lesbian.
Yeah, well, do something with the hair. Still, But anyway.
It's not like they're going to cast Alice Grant in this, Harrion. Come on. I had a few characters to pick from. All right. Well, I got the score right, even if I was quite off on several aspects. But never mind. All right. Well, there we go, folks. There we go. We have our scores in. Did
we get charities?
Yeah.
No, we did. Yeah.
Charities was first. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
An unashamed 10.
Objectively lower. Objectively lower, but I love this film.
Vote with our
so
heart.
you know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You got to vote with your heart, So that's cool, but it's reasonably appreciated by people, I thought it might get harsher scores, but on the rewatch, I liked it more than I thought. And it's going to be very interesting what we have next week. Folks, as you know, we've done this whole rewatch because of the upcoming Scream film. So next week's film is obviously going to be the new Scream. I'm not going to be doing an emergency stream on it because we're going to cover it on here. So don't. I know I usually do that, but get yourself to a cinema and give this one a chance. If people go and support horror movies that look like they might be good, we get more good horror movies, hopefully. And that's your horror homework for the week. Oh, and if you really feel like overachieving, if you really want to knock it out of the park, and you're not just watching Scream 2022 this week, there is a great little original film on Shudder called Caveat. Irish independent film, wonderful. If you want something very different, go and give that a watch. It's very short, very spooky. Yes. Devonte, I for some new big releases, I sometimes do an emergency stream on the day they're released, so that people can have a quick reaction to it. I did it for Halloween Kills. I did it for Candyman. I was considering doing it for Scream 5, but I thought we're going to cover it on Tuesday, so it'll be fine. So yeah, get that in, and then you can enjoy our discussion completely unspoiled. So that is horror homework given out. I'll now go to you guys just to ask if you've got anything to shill, TCG.
So yeah, support your local cinemas, and also come back next week to talk about Scream 5. For me personally, I am currently working on a script, and I'm hoping to get it done in the next couple of days. It's going to be a good one, guys, because it's all tied into what we're covering here. I'm just going to say it out now. I'm going to be covering the Gainesville Ripper. It was those series of murders that took place in Florida, which actually inspired Kevin Williamson to write the script for Scream. Yeah, so once I've got that more prepared, and once that's up, I will let you guys know. Go and subscribe to That Crime Guy. We're almost about to hit 3,700 subscribers, despite the fact that I haven't uploaded anything since October, so thank you. I'll keep you guys updated on the community posts and on here as and how that's coming along.
Yes, subscribe to That Crime Guy for all your true crime needs.
Do it.
Yeah. Charity, anything to shill?
Yeah, I've got a script out and I've recorded a video, but I'm just adding some new bits to it because the story that I'm working on has actually there's been a couple more like details that I've needed to add in. It is quite disturbing, but if anyone wants to watch that, be sure to. I won't go into too much detail here because I don't want to get the stream flagged or whatever, because it's quite bad subject matter.
Fair play.
It's going to be a long one, and I'm going to try and get back into making like regular videos again. And
cool. Okay. Yeah, it's weird when you fall out of the habit, to be honest. It can be difficult to get back in. So both of you get back in the saddle. Gets easier.
Yes, ma'am.
Harrian, you've been busy.
I, however, am back in the saddle. Laughing at the Guardian was last Saturday. Some quite fun articles we went through on the Colson statue there. God, people are idiots. And today it was about cancel culture. I talked about Pope Francis being base for once, and a rock being cancelled over in America about 6 months ago because it was racist. You need to watch it. And then hopefully another video Thursday if I see something that annoys me. We will see.
I know it's an older video of yours now, but you had one on Aaron Bastani at Novara Media trying to claim Jesus was a socialist. And yes. I just thought you did a really good job on that one. So I'd recommend that, folks. Give that a watch.
I think it's called Novara Media. It doesn't understand Jesus or something like that.
But Jesus stole from the rich and gave to the poor.
The worst part about that is that he takes the Lord Prayer. He's like, "Oh, give us this day our daily bread," and he takes that to mean, "Oh, they were asking God to give them bread equally," rather than what it actually means, which is give us a taste of heaven on earth. And I lost my mind because that is such basic religion.
I love how you just didn't turn around to me and say, "Bro, that's Kim Robin Hood."
Well, that as well, yeah. Well, I knew.
All right.
I was hoping you'd catch me out because they say he's a socialist as well.
Yeah, I know. I was too angry about Bastani to concentrate. Anyway.
Okay, yeah. And we'll round off now, but I will also give you a little treat, guys. I have been a busy beaver, and I saw something that I had to respond to. It's gonna be an interesting one. It's not about horror. It is delving into slightly spicier topics, and it's going to be, if all goes well, it's probably going to be the new source of endless, stupid, angry comments, more so than the Matrix videos I did. So that is coming out on Thursday, and it's called How to Miss Propaganda. So it's dropping on Thursday at 6. So do give it a watch and a like because it's going to get downvoted.
Yeah. Is that a closer look response video?
It is.
Yeah. I did see it. Right.
Yeah,
I'll give that a look.
The closer look is a cool guy. He's a clever guy. I like his rewriting.
Celestial.
But I think he made some rather massive mistakes in his description of propaganda, and he gave examples of non-propaganda that are absolutely propaganda. So watch that. Watch that and help fight the downvoting. That's coming out on Thursday. I'm going to leave it there. You have your horror homework. I will reiterate thanks to my wonderful guests and co-hosts. Thank you to the chat for keeping it nice and lively. And if you're watching on a rewatch on a catch-up, I hope you enjoyed it too. I think that's us for tonight.
Thanks for having me on again.
Well, thanks again, guys. This was a really good discussion. You changed my mind. And
Take that, Stephen Crowder.
Oh gosh! And Charity, we'll have you back next week.
Thank you for having me on this week. I do enjoy. I really have enjoyed this, especially with it being Scream and stuff.
You're fab. All right, that is us for now. Thanks, y'all.